There are people who were never meant to become heroes, yet fate forces them to be. And Wang Lin is one of them. Born into an ordinary family, he carried a simple wish in his heart to cultivate immortality and repay his parents' kindness. But the world is never that kind. No talent, no background, no guidance, everything seemed to whisper to him, the path of cultivation is not for you. Yet in the midst of that hopelessness, Wang Lin chose something that very few have the courage to do. He kept going. He walked forward with stubbornness. He walked forward with longing. He walked forward with everything left in his resilient heart. A strange opportunity came to him, opening a path of cultivation drenched in blood and loneliness. There, every improvement required a sacrifice. Every step forward meant losing something precious. To grow stronger, he had to endure 100 times more than ordinary people. Renegade Immortal is the tale of a man who never submits. A man willing to defy the heavens, defy fate, and defy the world just to protect what his heart refuses to let go. This is not merely an immortal cultivation story. This is the journey of a soul so powerful that even eternity must bow. And today, I invite you to step into that journey, the journey of Wang Lin, the man who walks against the will of heaven to find the answer meant for himself. Liu Mi's eyes showed a pensive expression. After a long while, she nodded and lowered her voice, saying, I have a slight impression, but it's not very profound. That Zhang Niu is Wang Lin. Liu Mi's eyes showed no expression. She only nodded silently, saying nothing. Originally, the person I prepared for you was Zhao Yi of the 5 sects. This person possesses a rare and profound love-filled aura. If you could leave your image within his Tao heart, transferring that love-filled aura to you, unfortunately this person disappeared in the immortal realm. Liu Mi fell silent. Today, you should leave your seclusion. You and that Zhang Ni will soon meet. When you interact with him, no matter what method you use, you must leave your image within his Tao heart. Using him as a furnace, when your aura reaches its peak, then you can break the furnace, and his life and death reincarnation aura will also be under your control. Therefore, you have a much greater chance than Fender of inheriting the title of Vermilion Bird. Liu Mi sighed inwardly, bit her lip, and fell silent. Oh, you don't want to. A red glint flashed in the old man's eyes. He wasn't angry, but his demeanor was imposing. The disciple obeys, Liu Mi said in a low voice. The old man raised his head and looked into the distance. His gaze seemed to penetrate the cave, piercing through the distance, looking at an old man gnawing on a chicken leg inside a first-level cultivation nation. Junior brother, among the 4 you chose, Zhang Niu is the weakest. I arranged it this way. I'm sure you don't mind. I'm about to go into seclusion again. I hope you'll succeed next time you come out. After a long while, the old man withdrew his gaze. A red light flashed, and he disappeared into the cave. Liu Mi stood up, her thin clothes clinging to her body, highlighting her exquisite figure. She sighed softly, stepped out of the cold pool, and gently waved her right hand, a white mist rising from her body. After the fog cleared, a stunning beauty was revealed inside. She wore a pale pink floral dress, with a thin white blouse over it, revealing the graceful curves of her neck and even her collarbone. Her trousers, like pure moonlight, trailed on the ground for more than 3 feet. 3,000 strands of black hair were tied back with a hair tie, cascading down her chest. Her skin was like snow, and a rosy blush on her cheeks created a delicate and captivating beauty that stirred the heart. Her entire figure resembled both a butterfly fluttering in the wind and pure, translucent ice and snow. She was Liu Mi, even more beautiful and captivating than she was back then. Wang Lin, the young man with the great sword on his back from the Hengyu sect, that's right. He was the one with the brightest eyes back then. Unexpectedly, after 500 years, he has caught the eye of the sect's patriarch. This person is truly extraordinary, Liu Mi sighed softly, stepping out of the cave. Preserving his image within his Tao heart isn't difficult, but is doing so the right thing to do? A look of confusion appeared in Liu Mi's eyes. At this moment, the sinister man named Qian Feng approached from afar. Behind him followed another person, Hong Dai. But Hong Dai's eyes were empty, her body devoid of any life, like a puppet. Liu Mi's gaze was calm. She glanced at Hong Dai without saying anything. Qian Feng stopped 3 paces in front of Liu Mi, smiling, revealing his pearly white teeth, and gently said, Sister, are you planning to leave seclusion? Liu Mi nodded, lowering her voice. Brother Qian Feng is the person behind you, Hong Dai. Jianfeng smiled and said, Hong Dai is dead. This is my furnace servant, named Ju Qing. Liu Mi carefully observed Hong Dai, a look of reluctance in her eyes. She sighed softly and left the cave. She knew that Hong Dai's life force was her mental state, and naturally, when it completely vanished, she would become Qian Feng's puppet. To see such a fate befall a proud woman of her generation, she felt a pang of sadness. In recent years, Hong Dai was the third person to have her mental state and life force devoured, each time increasing Qian Feng's cultivation significantly. The ancestor, in order to cultivate the vermilion bird, didn't seem to mind. Qian Feng's eyes flickered with malevolent light as he stared at Liu Mi's figure, lowering his voice. Sister, sooner or later you will become my servant, Heartless. What do you think? Hong Dai, behind him, remained motionless, her eyes devoid of light, like a dried-up skeleton. In a place within the first-tier cultivation nation of Vermilion Bird Star, a slovenly old man was gnawing on a chicken leg. He coughed a few times, spitting out the swallowed piece of chicken meat, and looked up towards Vermilion Bird Nation. His face was as gloomy as water. He was about to stand up and leave but slowly sat back down. His expression was extremely unpleasant as he muttered, Senior brother, you've fought me your whole life. Do you still want to continue fighting even at the brink of death? The title of Vermilion Bird, I lost that year, and you were given it. But aren't you being a bit too much? This Wang Lin, if he can survive and return from the immortal realm, he will be the one I choose. If you kill him, I will kill Qian Feng. He threw the chicken leg in his hand away, his eyes flashing slightly. However, if this Wang Lin can turn the tables and turn Liu Mi into a refining furnace, that possibility is also very high, senior brother. I want to see whether your disciple is more skillful, or if someone else has a better choice. Reversing the situation is what's interesting. Wang Lin was riding on the one beast, meditating with his eyes closed. After a long time, he opened his eyes and sighed softly. My physical injuries have healed, but the depletion of my primordial spirit is a bit troublesome. Moreover, I've always felt a sense of danger in this Vermilion Bird Kingdom. This feeling is absolutely unmistakable. Hong Dai's injuries are similar to mine, not too severe. But it seems she's had some kind of enlightenment. After her seclusion, she definitely break through. If I can't reach the late stage of the God transformation realm, I'm afraid I won't be able to resist her next time we meet. Wang Lin, lost in thought, suddenly changed his expression. The spirit beast beneath him immediately stopped, staring blankly around. That old transformation. A mournful voice suddenly echoed from the void. Immediately afterward, a massive formation appeared in the air. Wang Lin, without hesitation, recalled the spirit beast, his body flashing as he teleported away. However, after traveling 100 miles, his body was instantly propelled away with a loud bang. Immediately afterward, the formation in the air stirred slightly. A colossal force surged out from within. Wang Lin was startled, his body instantly drawn towards the formation like a rainbow. In an instant, his figure disappeared into the formation. The formation slowly dissipated. A white-haired old man appeared in midair, muttering to himself, Snow Domain Kingdom, this time you owe me a favor. This man was the same one who had sat beside Gongsun Po that day. He was the external affairs elder of the Heavenly Jade Sect. In the far north of the Vermilion Bird Continent, this place was a desolate region. At this moment, a huge formation suddenly appeared in midair. From within the formation, a figure flew out and fell. Wang Lin, still in midair, leapt up, cautiously looking around. Then his expression turned grim. In front of him stood a middle-aged man. In front of him was a table with a tea set on it. At this moment, he sat on a chair holding a teacup, blowing on it slightly before taking a small sip. He looked up and smiled, saying, Young friend Zheng Niu, I am Li Yuanfeng, the sect master of the Snow Domain Kingdom. I am here to take your life on behalf of Hong Dai, the transformation realm old monster. Wang Lin recognized the opponent's abilities at a glance. His heart grew even more somber. Without saying a word, he slashed his right hand through the air, intending to tear through space, and used the star compass to escape. Facing the transformation realm old monster, Wang Lin knew he couldn't resist. He could only flee. But immediately, a cold glint appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. In the past, with his abilities, he could tear open a spatial rift with ease. But now, even with his full strength, he couldn't tear through space. This, along with the fact that his power had been diminished, wasn't too closely related. Although his power had been reduced, he was still at the early stage of the god transformation realm, and it was impossible for him to be unable to tear through space. The middle-aged man drinking tea put down his teacup, shook his head, and said, "Kid, to prevent you from escaping, this place has been sealed off. There are no more spatial rifts. Your star compass is useless." Wang Lin said nothing, turned around, and teleported away. But immediately, the coldness in his eyes intensified. Teleportation was useless. The star compass was useless. Teleportation was useless. Obviously, the opponent understood him very well, which is why they had set up such a trap, leaving him with not even half a chance to escape. Wang Lin stomped his foot and flew rapidly backward. The middle-aged man neither hurried nor slowed down, gently blowing on his tea, taking a sip, then casually setting down the teacup and standing up. Shaking his head, he said, "The sect master doesn't usually take action, but once I do, I won't let my guard down just because you're in the nascent soul stage. Zheng Niu, you're definitely going to die now." His body moved slightly, flying far ahead, following Wang Lin. Wang Lin's speed was very fast, and so was this man's. He didn't rush to catch up, remaining behind like a cat toying with a mouse. Wang Lin's heart grew even more somber. He potted his storage bag with his right hand, immediately taking out a jade slip. As soon as he unleashed his spiritual power, the jade slip instantly emitted a blue flame, burning and dissipating in an instant. Wang Lin sighed inwardly. Not long after, his body suddenly stopped. In front of him stood 3 figures. All 3 were clad in black robes, their faces concealed. One of them took a step forward, and immediately a tremendous pressure emanated from the heavens and earth. Another transformation realm, Wang Lin thought bitterly. At this moment, the middle-aged man had also caught up, standing 100 yards away, smiling and saying, "Young friend Zheng Niu, no need to run anymore. It's time." After saying this, he raised his right hand and pointed at Wang Lin. Immediately, a swirling vortex of wind appeared in front of him, carrying a howling sound as it attacked Wang Lin. Wang Lin quickly retreated, drawing his sword with his right hand and slashing forward with the immortal sword. The sword light roared wildly. The swirling vortex trembled, dissipating slightly. The sword light pierced through the vortex and sped towards the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man's eyes showed a mocking expression as he extended his large hand. Immediately, he grasped the sword light, pressed it down, and it completely vanished. The middle-aged man was slightly surprised. His entire right hand trembled slightly. Wang Lin sighed inwardly. His abilities had been diminished. His spiritual power was in disarray. After his primordial spirit was depleted, the power of his immortal sword could no longer be unleashed as it had been in the battle with Hong Dai. Wang Lin gritted his teeth and turned to flee. At this moment, the black-robed cultivator, Ying Bian, snorted softly. His body moved swiftly like lightning, instantly catching up to Wang Lin and lightly patting him on the back. Wang Lin groaned miserably, only managing to concentrate his remaining spiritual power behind him, shielding his front with his immortal sword. But his body was suddenly struck by a powerful force, sending him flying hundreds of meters away. He spat out a large mouthful of blood, which contained some fragments of shattered internal organs. Wang Lin's face was ashen, his injuries worsening. The old man in black reached out and grabbed the immortal sword in Wang Lin's hand, catching it in his grasp. He carefully examined it, saying in a low voice, "What a fine sword! It even has a sword spirit inside. Not bad." The middle-aged man smiled and said, "This sword is yours, but that small flag that can trigger the immortal tribulation is mine." The old man in black laughed heartily and said, "All right, and that star compass originally belonged to my clan. I want it." The middle-aged man nodded and said, "Naturally." Wang Lin struggled to his feet, his legs trembling slightly. This wasn't his intention, but rather caused by his severe injuries. His face darkened as he stared at the old man in black, speaking each word distinctly, "Giant Demon Clan." The old man in black lowered his hood, revealing his face. This man had gray hair and a face full of wrinkles, but his eyes shone like the bright moon. He looked at Wang Lin and smiled, saying, "Young friend Zheng Niu, I'm indeed a member of the Giant Demon Clan. Back then, you snatched the star compass from our clan's young clan leader, Chi Hu, in the immortal realm. Today, I've come to reclaim it. I hope you don't mind. Wang Lin's eyes darkened. His right hand trembled as he took out a pill from his storage bag. Standing before the nascent soul stage old man, he swallowed it in one gulp and calmly said, "Nascent soul stage old monsters simultaneously attacking just to take my life is truly an honor. I will remember this in my heart." The middle-aged man smiled and nodded, saying, "That's right. It should be so. Although you will die, you should leave with a smile. I am very interested in your magical treasure." After saying that, he pointed his right hand again. At this moment, a surge of spiritual energy in the shape of a large arm roared out from the middle-aged man's hand, instantly reaching Wang Lin and launching a furious attack. Wang Lin's spiritual power had recovered somewhat. He lightly flipped his right hand, and the Forbidden's banner in his hand trembled. The Forbidden's energy immediately roared out, forming black mists in front of him, blocking the spiritual energy. But with a series of sounds, the Forbidden's energy dissipated one by one, finally being dissolved by the spiritual energy. What a fine little banner! I must carefully study it. The middle-aged man's eyes lit up as he looked at the Forbidden's banner in Wang Lin's hand and smiled. In his opinion, Zheng Niu was certain to die. Two nascent soul cultivators couldn't possibly fail to kill a nascent soul cultivator. Wang Lin's face grew even paler, a wave of despair rising in his heart. He was utterly powerless to resist. Not only was the distance too great, but even if it were not so great, it would be impossible. Therefore, he truly would perish today. Prolonging the time, waiting for Suntai, was the only way. But now, after activating the Forbidden's banner, his spiritual power was completely depleted. At this moment, he had not a shred of spiritual power left. The middle-aged man raised his right hand, about to strike again. At this moment, the black-robed figure standing beside the giant demon clan's transformation stage old monster suddenly spoke up, respectfully saying, "Ancestor, please allow this junior to personally kill this person to avenge the grudge from years ago." The middle-aged man lowered his hand and looked towards the giant demon clan's ancestor. The ancestor glanced at the black-robed figure and nodded. The black-robed figure immediately turned around and lowered his head. He was none other than Shathu. Shathu's eyes were calm. His body moved slightly, transforming into a blur, flying towards Wang Lin. Shathu. Wang Lin, holding the Forbidden's banner in his hand, showed a complex expression. "Zheng Niu, prepare to die." Shathu shouted softly, but a strange glint flashed in his eyes. He clapped his right hand forward, and immediately a surge of spiritual power roared out. Wang Lin looked at Shathu's eyes, his heart stirring. The roaring spiritual power had no offensive power, but instead entered Wang Lin's body. Instantly, Wang Lin's body, which had been depleted of spiritual power, became full again. When Shathu was close to Wang Lin, he kicked him in the chest with his right foot, sending him flying far away. This kick had no offensive power. Instead, a surge of spiritual power flowed into Wang Lin's body, merging with his own. "Brother Zheng, the southeast corner is the way out." Shathu's anxious voice reached Wang Lin's ears. The middle-aged man glanced over and understood the situation, letting out a soft snort. The ancestor of the giant demon clan's face darkened, and he suddenly lunged forward, shouting, "Shathu, what are you doing?" Shathu's body flashed, blocking the ancestor's side. His eyes were clear, and he said loudly, "Ancestor, that star compass was given to Zheng Niu by me, not stolen by him. I, Shathu, am a man of honor, and Zheng Niu saved my life many times in the immortal realm. He and I are friends. How could I do such an inhumane thing?" The ancestor of the giant demon clan laughed angrily. His body moved slightly, and he passed Shathu. Shathu let out a loud roar, the axe-shaped mark between his eyebrows flashing. He took a step forward, gritting his teeth as he charged towards the giant demon clan's ancestor, shouting, "That star compass is of no use to our clan. What difference does it make if you give it to Zheng Niu? You've already taken someone else's flying sword, and you're still not satisfied." The ancestor suddenly turned, staring at Shathu, and extended a claw. Shathu immediately felt a strange force restraining his body, rendering him unable to move a single step. "If you weren't the one with the most giant demon blood among the younger generation, I would definitely kill this rebellious son today. After returning, I would punish you with 100 years of seclusion to endure the hardships of body tempering." He moved slightly, chasing after Wang Lin, who was fleeing. Shathu clenched his fists, watching Wang Lin disappear towards the southeast. Brother Zhang, I've done my best. Shathu's face was filled with distress. He never believed Wang Lin would survive. The reason he dared to offend the patriarch just now was to avoid regretting it later. Shathu, act with integrity and honesty. Zheng Yu and I have become friends. I cannot do anything inhumane or unjust. Thanks to the help of Shihu, Wang Lin's spiritual power was restored. He immediately flew away, fleeing at high speed. He would forever cherish Chihu's kindness in saving him. As he flew, Wang Lin touched his forehead with his right hand and sighed inwardly. He didn't know what kind of formation the opponent had set up. Not only could he not tear open space, but he couldn't even use his teleportation spell. Entering the heaven-defying space was also hindered by a layer of force, making it impossible to enter in a short time. This formation was incredibly ingenious. In fact, not only could Wang Lin not teleport, but even the ancestor of the giant demon clan who set up the formation couldn't teleport within it. A flash of hatred appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. But at this moment, the middle-aged man from the snow region, his figure like lightning, broke through the air in pursuit. Almost in an instant, he caught up with Wang Lin, coldly saying, "You can't escape. Let me send you to heaven." This man raised his right hand, pressing his thumb down. Immediately, a powerful force emerged from above. When it reached Wang Lin's body, a terrifying wave of intent roared towards him. This intent was a fragrant aroma. This aroma originated from tea, immersing both body and soul in the enjoyment of tea, thereby comprehending life and befriending tea. Wang Lin's life and death reincarnation intent instantly appeared. Facing the perfected intent of a nascent soul cultivator, he was clearly unable to resist. In an instant, he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, his face weary, his primordial spirit injured. Wang Lin's body plummeted from midair, falling to the ground. A series of tea leaf-shaped marks appeared on his face. These marks flickered incessantly. With each flicker, Wang Lin's body weakened, and his primordial spirit gradually dissipated. At this moment, the giant demon clan's ancestor arrived, glancing down at Wang Lin on the ground. What a waste of time! After killing him, I have important matters to attend to. Fellow Taoistly, go ahead and strike. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed, and he smiled, saying, "You don't want to act. Are you afraid of Vermilion Bird Mountain's retaliation?" "Well, I initiated this. Let me do it." Having said that, he raised his right hand and pointed forward, intending to end Wang Lin's life. But at that moment, a bolt of lightning suddenly struck from the horizon. Immediately afterward, the sky was torn apart, creating a huge crack. A dark purple coffin descended from the heavens. In this demon ceiling universe formation, if I didn't know the exact location of the formation's eye, it would be difficult to enter. A cold snort came from the coffin. A red-robed old man stood atop the coffin, his eyes flashing as he intently watched the three figures on the ground. After glancing at the giant demon clan's ancestor and the middle-aged man, the old man's face darkened, and he cursed, "Zheng Yu, you've caused so much trouble. I say, you two old geezers, killing a junior at the nascent soul stage, aren't you ashamed?" The Yin sect. The middle-aged man retracted his right hand, his eyes flashing as he stared at the old man. This red-robed old man was indeed the great elder of the Yin sect, Sun Tai. Sun Tai's face darkened as he glanced at the middle-aged man, finally settling his gaze on the giant demon clan's ancestor, silently cursing in his heart. The old man knew that although this giant demon clan ancestor was only at the early stage of the nascent soul realm, the giant demon clan only needed to reach the nascent soul realm to possess innate divine abilities. Even he, at the middle stage of the nascent soul realm, was not someone to be trifled with. "I want to take this person away," Sun Tai said in a low voice. Fellow Taoist, the middle-aged man from the Snow Domain Kingdom, said, "Get the hell out of here. You're just a lowly nascent soul cultivator at the early stage, and you were forcibly promoted. You have no right to speak to me." Sun Tai glared and shouted. The middle-aged man's expression immediately changed, filled with intense hatred for Sun Tai. Since his cultivation reached the nascent soul realm, he had been a supreme figure in the Snow Domain Kingdom. Even among nascent soul cultivators of the same level, no one had ever spoken to him like that. Sun Tai snorted softly, his gaze fixed on the giant demon clan ancestor. The giant clan's patriarch's eyes were gloomy as he stared at Sun Tai. After a moment of silence, he shook his head and said, "No, this man must die. Moreover, his corpse must belong to me." The middle-aged man from the Snow Domain Kingdom was stunned. He glanced at the giant clan patriarch. This was the first time he had spoken about matters concerning the corpse. "You're not even a member of my insect. What do you want with the corpse?" Sun Tai snorted softly and shouted, "I have my own use for it." The giant clan patriarch stared at Sun Tai and said decisively, he did have a use for it. In fact, if the sect master of the Snow Domain Kingdom hadn't asked him to set up the formation, he would have secretly taken action and killed Wang Lin. He knew that Zhang Niu's real name was Wang Lin. The star compass was merely a pretext to deceive others. His true purpose was the heaven-defying pearl. Originally, 500 years ago, he sent his clansmen to the Zhao Kingdom to open a passage into the outer battlefield to bring back news. Back then, the entire Cultivation Alliance wanted to seize this treasure. If our giant demon clan could obtain it and offer it to the Cultivation Alliance, we would surely be granted a 6th level status. Then we could leave Vermilion Bird Star and establish Giant Demon Star. From there, our giant demon branch would have the right to be the leader of the entire clan. But that Wang Lin seized it back then. This thought flashed through the mind of the giant demon clan's ancestor. His eyes showed determination. Today, he absolutely would not allow Wang Lin to be stolen by someone else. That same year, when a giant demon clan member informed him of this, he immediately executed him, carefully extracting his soul to examine it, confirming that he hadn't told anyone. Moreover, not many people knew about it, and he feared attracting attention, so he didn't dare act rashly and kill everyone who knew, instead secretly preparing to search for Wang Lin. The problem was, although his magical power was immense, Wang Lin seemed to have vanished into thin air. The Vermilion Bird Star was too vast. He couldn't possibly find him. Based on the last clue from his clansmen, Wang Lin had disappeared into a rift in the outer battlefield. Therefore, he personally went to the outer battlefield, searching within the rift for hundreds of years. But he never found anything. This gradually became a deep-seated regret. He thought Wang Lin was probably completely dead, leaving no trace, and the heaven-defying pearl was nowhere to be found. But after Zhang Niu appeared, everything changed. After returning, Shihu's words were somewhat strange. Using his status as an ancestor to pressure him, Shihu finally revealed the truth. This man immediately became suspicious and investigated thoroughly. He quickly discovered that Zhang Niu was none other than Wang Lin from back then. Therefore, he was immediately overjoyed, but fearing that the Vermilion Bird Kingdom would interfere, he hesitated to act, lest he attract their attention, rendering everything futile. However, he secretly killed the envoy from the 4th level cultivation nation, Zhao Kingdom, who knew about this matter, and extracted his soul. He discovered that this person hadn't reported the news to his superiors because he wasn't sure. He felt completely at ease, waiting for the opportunity to assassinate Wang Lin. Just then, Li Yuanfeng of the Snow region came to him, asking him to set up a formation to kill Zhang Niu. The ancestor of the giant demon clan immediately agreed, saying he wanted to retrieve the star compass. In this way, even if the Vermilion Bird Kingdom later tracked him down, they would only find the Snow region, and he would remain undetected, able to obtain the heaven-defying pearl. At that time, even if Wang Lin died, as long as he had his corpse, he could use his secret techniques to locate the heaven-defying pearl. Sun Tai's eyes darkened. He let out a soft snort, and his body flashed as he flew towards Wang Lin. The middle-aged man from the Snow Domain Kingdom immediately stepped forward, patted his storage bag, and took out a bronze bell, intending to stop them. Sun Tai shouted, "Get out of the way!" A surge of power, like divine might, erupted from his body. The middle-aged man's expression changed, and his steps involuntarily paused. "You dare!" The ancestor of the giant demon clan suddenly swung his right fist. With a rumbling sound, a black vortex instantly appeared, closing in on Sun Tai in an instant. Sun Tai's right hand formed a hand seal, pointing at the coffin in midair. Immediately, the coffin lid shifted slightly and a dried corpse flew out, heading towards the ancestor of the giant demon clan. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Sun Tai extended his left hand and grabbed Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin was extremely weak at this moment, his eyes tightly closed, his face ashen. Without a word, Sun Tai turned and flew upwards, instantly leaping into the crack and disappearing. The middle-aged man's expression was uncertain. He hesitated for a moment, but did not make a move. How could the ancestor of the giant demon clan stand idly by and watch his prized possession be snatched away? He let out a loud roar, and his body instantly transformed into a towering figure over 10 meters tall, a massive heaven-splitting axe appearing in his hand. He swung it, and a thunderous roar echoed through the air. A huge beam of axe light shot at in an instant. Sun Tai's expression changed. He had long known the giant demon clan was formidable. At this moment, he formed a hand seal with his right hand and struck forward. Boom! After the explosion, Sun Tai's body shot out from the crack like an arrow. The giant demon ancestor let out a loud roar, stomping his foot and taking a few steps forward, pursuing the attackers. In the north of the Vermilion Bird continent, two streaks of light, one in front and one behind, sped past with furious roars. As he fled, Sun Tai's face darkened as he cursed, "Do you really think I'm afraid of you?" He spun around, his right hand conjuring a seal that imprinted on Wang Lin's forehead, then threw it downwards. Wang Lin's body immediately fell to the ground within a dense forest. Upon landing, Wang Lin struggled to open his eyes, sat cross-legged, took out a medicinal pill and swallowed it, meditating and breathing deeply, fully resisting the middle-aged man's mental state within his body and Sun Tai's seal. He had already awakened, knowing that Sun Tai might come to rescue him. This seal wasn't out of kindness, but it was still better than losing his life. The ancestor of the giant demon clan advanced in pursuit, swinging the heaven-opening hammer in his hand, transforming it into a flash of silver light. With a resounding crash, the space in front of Sun Tai instantly shattered, countless cracks appearing like turtle shells. Sun Tai cursed loudly, pointing his right hand in the air. Immediately, 3 streaks of green light flew out from his storage bag, transforming into 3 dried corpses that hurtled towards the ancestor of the giant demon clan. "Explode for me," Sun Tai shouted. Boom, boom, boom. A violent tremor shook the earth, and the 3 dried corpses instantly exploded, a powerful blast of energy striking the ancestor of the giant demon clan. His body was immediately pushed back several meters. Sun Tai's face turned ferocious, and he moved slightly forward. At the same time, his right hand flipped, transforming into a large handprint that suddenly struck the ancestor of the giant demon clan. The old patriarch's face was grim. His own abilities only reached the early stage of the nascent soul realm. Without a strong physique and innate divine abilities, he would never dare to challenge a cultivator at the middle stage of the nascent soul realm. This Wang Lin was too closely connected to his giant demon clan, so he had no choice but to risk everything. The massive handprint in front of him contained the super spiritual power of a cultivator at the middle stage of the nascent soul realm. Nascent soul cultivators naturally rely not only on the spiritual power of heaven and earth, but also on immortal energy to enhance their abilities. Therefore, this attack also contained immortal energy. Previously, the middle-aged man from the snow region and the old patriarch of the giant demon clan had not used immortal energy when dealing with Wang Lin. After all, immortal energy cannot be wasted. Once depleted, there is no way to replenish it except with immortal jade. And immortal jade is very difficult to obtain. This is also the reason why the number of nascent soul cultivators is not very large, and also the reason why nascent soul cultivators rarely engage in life or death battles. Thus, cultivators at the transformation stage usually don't casually use immortal energy. But when they do, its power is terrifying. Manipulating immortal energy is a skill of cultivators from the transformation stage and above, and if a cultivator at the god transformation stage can comprehend the same intent, they will have the potential to break through. Although this hand seal of Sun Tai was just a casual strike and not a powerful divine spell, its power would be ordinary without immortal energy. But now it contains immortal energy, so its power is instantly transformed. Even a simple fireball spell, if it contains immortal energy, will be incredibly powerful. Sun Tai's casual strike immediately shook the heart of the giant demon clan's ancestor. His eyes flashed, and a surge of immortal energy rose within his body, instantly merging into his right hand. His expression became serious, and he unleashed a hammer strike to counter the hand seal. Boom! A loud explosion followed, and countless cracks appeared in the ground. Numerous streams of 7-colored light, like a flashing rainbow, appeared in the air. Waves of immortal power rippled outwards in all directions. A massive mountain beneath these ripples instantly collapsed, turning into dust, leaving only half its original size. These ripples arrived quickly and dissipated just as swiftly, not spreading too widely. After all, neither of them had used excessive immortal power. The ancestor of the giant demon clan trembled, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. His face was ferocious, and he crouched down slightly, not heading towards Suntai but instead rushing towards the open space within the dense forest. I am a mid-stage transformation realm cultivator. I don't believe I can't kill you. After killing you, the bodies of the giant demon clan will surely fetch a good price. Suntai snorted softly and charged forward. At the same time, his right hand pointed to the sky, and a stream of immortal energy erupted from his body as he shouted, "Lightning!" With a loud bang, a black bolt of lightning suddenly appeared in the air, striking down. My understanding of the lightning intent was gained at a great cost. After 100 years of seclusion on the heavenly lightning star, you little turtle of the giant demon clan, die for me. Suntai roared. The giant demon clan's ancestor's face darkened. He looked up and saw the thunderous lightning instantly descending. He roared, his body instantly growing 3 meters taller, becoming a giant, and punched the lightning. Boom! Another explosion, and the ancestor's entire body was enveloped in lightning, radiating in all directions. His face was pale, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth as he glared at Suntai. At this moment, the middle-aged man from the snow region silently teleported forward. When he reappeared, he was standing in front of Wang Lin. A vicious smile appeared on his lips, and with a flick of his right hand, he intended to take Wang Lin's life. Wang Lin's eyes widened, a malevolent look in them. He was trying to recover, but this man's tea-infused intent and Suntai's seal combined to form a powerful, unbreakable seal. Therefore, his spiritual power couldn't recover. Even if he swallowed a pill, it would dissolve instantly and be absorbed by this seal, having no effect whatsoever. Currently, his spiritual power was even lower than that of a low-level foundation establishment cultivator, barely equivalent to the 3rd level of Che condensation. Moreover, due to the unstable spiritual power, he had completely become a mortal without any magical power. At this moment, even a mere mortal among the martial arts masters could easily kill him. His primordial spirit was extremely weak, capable of dissipating at any moment, even constantly escaping from his body without being able to retract. This injury, apart from the one when Tang Ichue Yuan destroyed his body years ago, was the most serious. The middle-aged man from the snow region's eyes flashed, and he pointed his right hand downwards. Just then, a bolt of heavenly lightning suddenly descended from the sky. The middle-aged man's expression changed, and he quickly retreated, unleashing his full speed without hesitation, fleeing frantically. However, this heavenly lightning was like an eye, relentlessly pursuing him. In an instant, both the heavenly lightning and the middle-aged man disappeared into the horizon, leaving no trace. Humph dared to play tricks in front of me. From the air, Suntai let out a cold laugh, his hands clasped in front of him, manipulating the immortal energy within his body, preparing to strike a blow that would send the giant demon clan's ancestor fleeing, before calmly making arrangements for Wang Lin. The old man decided that this time he must completely seal Wang Lin to prevent his own primordial spirit from suffering any damage. A strange light flickered in the eyes of the giant demon clan elder as he stared at Suntai, saying in a deep voice, "I will take this person away and return him to you after 7 days." "No," Suntai said without hesitation. Allowing this person to take Wang Lin away was tantamount to handing his primordial spirit over to the other party. The old man of the giant demon clan fell silent, then said in a deep voice, "You forced me. After my transformation, this is the first time I have used my innate divine ability. Take this." He finished speaking, took a deep breath, and suddenly let out a low growl, veins bulging on his face, his whole body seemingly enduring unimaginable pain. Behind him, a large vortex appeared. Within this vortex, black energy flickered, and a strange force emanated from within as the vortex moved. Suntai's expression changed. Just then, the giant demon clan ancestor shouted, "Turn!" Instantly, the whirlwind behind him moved with immense speed, unleashing a colossal, frenzied suction force. However, this suction force had no effect on the surrounding mountains, rocks, and vegetation. It was solely directed at Suntai. Suntai immediately felt the immense gravitational pull. his body involuntarily drawn towards the vortex. He gritted his teeth, unleashing all the immortal power in his body, pointing at the void. A red coffin appeared from the void. Sun Tai placed a palm on top of the coffin. With a loud bang, the coffin shattered, and a corpse of a young boy flew out. Turn! The ancestor of the giant demon clan roared again, veins bulging on his face, his body trembling uncontrollably. His abilities were insufficient. Using his innate divine power had caused immense physical exhaustion, only allowing him to maintain his power for a short time. The vortex immediately spun at a frenzied speed. Sun Tai groaned miserably, his body involuntarily drawn into the vortex. His eyes showed unwillingness as he shouted, "Demon child, kill him!" The boy instantly opened his eyes, revealing an eerie light. With a stomp of his foot, he moved to the giant demon ancestor's side at an unbelievable speed, far faster than teleportation. The giant demon ancestor watched helplessly as the boy delivered a blow to his chest. Immediately, a destructive force attacked his body. He spat out a large mouthful of blood, his primordial spirit was instantly knocked out, and his storage bag was quickly swept away. His body fell, kicked by the boy, leaving a deep, gaping hole in his chest. However, Sun Tai's figure within the vortex also gradually sank into it, letting out an unwilling roar before slowly disappearing. The giant clan's innate divine ability, unleashed using the current skills of their ancestor, doesn't have the power to harm others, but it can expel the designated person from the vermilion bird star and send them to a very distant star in the sky. Sun Tai vanished completely in the whirlwind. Only the pupil remained in midair. A moment later, it pursued the primordial spirit of the giant demon clan's ancestor. The giant demon clan's ancestor, unwilling to give up on capturing Wang Lin, roared in anger, gritting his teeth and flying away. The pupil's speed was also extremely fast, relentlessly pursuing. In an instant, the figures of the two disappeared into the horizon. Wang Lin breathed a sigh of relief, struggling to stand up, limping towards the trees outside. From his footsteps, he could clearly feel his abilities weakening and his spiritual power dwindling. Li Yuanfeng's intent and Sun Tai's seal had almost perfectly combined, locking him down extremely tightly. On his face, the tea leaf marks grew denser, eventually forming scars. These scars crisscrossed in a regular pattern, forming a bizarre design. This pattern was the seal of Sun Tai. Wang Lin smiled bitterly, struggling to walk for a long time. His entire body felt as if a huge mountain was pressing down on him, making each step difficult. By the time he emerged from the dense forest, the meager spiritual power in his body had completely dissipated. His injuries were obviously severe, especially the agonizing pain in his internal organs, and his primordial spirit was weakened and on the verge of dissipating. After leaving the forest, he caught a glimpse of sunlight. Wang Lin looked up, but a wave of weakness washed over him, his vision blurred, and he collapsed to the ground. After the battle between Wang Lin and Hong Yi, the name Zheng Yu and the magical artifacts he used were secretly noted by envoys from cultivation nations outside the country. Upon returning to their respective countries, they immediately spread the news. Whether it was the Forbidden's banner, the treasured sword, or the divine archery chariot, in a short period of time, they had become hot topics among most cultivators on the Vermilion Bird Star. The name Zheng Yu had become second only to the nascent Soul Stage cultivator. At the same time, news spread from Vermilion Bird Mountain that Hong Yi would be going into seclusion for 100 years to seek a breakthrough to the nascent Soul Stage. No one doubted this. Hong Yi had gained some enlightenment after that battle, so going into seclusion was natural. However, after everything ended, Zheng Yu disappeared. No one knew anything about him. All that was known was that Zheng Yu vanished on his way to Vermilion Bird Mountain to receive orders. This immediately caused a huge uproar. From Vermilion Bird Mountain, the old monster known as Vermilion Bird emerged from his seclusion and looked towards the far north of the Vermilion Bird continent. 3 days earlier, a surge of magical power had been felt there. Clearly, nascent Soul Stage cultivators had been fighting there. Furthermore, he sensed the innate divine abilities of the giant demon clan. Although Vermilion Bird's cultivation hadn't reached the level of a god, he could still perceive everything. After quickly scanning the vast amount of news throughout the Vermilion Bird Kingdom, he understood that Zheng Yu's incident was caused by the snow region, with the giant demon clan also involved. However, he couldn't find any information about the cultivator at the nascent Soul Stage. Furthermore, despite his vast divine consciousness, he couldn't locate Wang Lin. This surprised him slightly. He guessed that Wang Lin must have been severely injured, his primordial spirit shattered. Only then would he be unable to find him. However, to him, even if Wang Lin was important, he was just a cauldron. His loss wouldn't matter. Liu Mi, go to the north of the Vermilion Bird Kingdom and find out where Wang Lin is. The old man transmitted this message to Liu Mi before continuing his seclusion. The Snow Region Kingdom's actions against his wishes this time would surely bring disaster upon them in the future. Liu Mi descended from Vermilion Bird Mountain, her figure like a magnificent rainbow, transforming into a beam of light and flying towards the northern Vermilion Bird Star. At this moment, on a cliff of Vermilion Bird Mountain, a person completely covered in crimson gazing into the distance. Her eyes were empty, devoid of any life. A vibrant rose bloomed at her feet. The mountain wind blew, causing the flower to sway slightly, seemingly about to fall at any moment. Yet, unexpectedly, it remained strong, reaching towards the wind. Qian Feng's figure appeared behind the woman, his right hand flicking the flower at her feet. The flower instantly shattered, turning into dust. Juking, I know you still have a trace of your primordial spirit hidden. But now that you've fallen into my hands, Qian Feng, you should give up. Qian Feng laughed sinisterly, patting the woman's face. A month later, in a remote mountain village north of the Vermilion Bird Continent, a strange-looking young man dressed in coarse cloth sat on a large rock. His face was covered in large, repulsive scars, and his eyes were dull and lifeless. He gazed into the distance, his eyes seemingly unfocused, completely vacant and unfocused. Villagers passed by the village entrance, each one showing disgust and trying to avoid him. The young man's expression remained unchanged. He simply sat there, staring blankly into the distance. Soon after, a young woman in floral clothes and white shoes approached. Behind her was a dog as large as a calf. The young woman was about 14 or 15 years old, with a small, fair face and dark eyes. Ugly mute, my father told me to call you back for dinner. She called out, stopping 3 yards from the young man. The young man turned his head, glanced at the girl, and then stood up. Perhaps because he had been sitting for too long, his legs were numb, and when he stood up, he stumbled and fell, causing the girl to laugh. Mute, hurry up, I'm hungry too. The girl turned and walked into the village. The large dog immediately ran ahead of her to clear the way. The young man silently followed, looking at the houses in the village, the expression in his eyes growing stronger. In one of the village buildings, a middle-aged man sat at a small table. He was simply dressed, his blue robe faded from repeated washing. Some herbs lay in the courtyard, their fragrant scent carried on the breeze. The girl skipped in, sat down beside the man and gently said, Father, I've called the mute back. The man raised his eyebrows, gave the girl a stern look, and rebuked, You don't know your place. You should call me uncle. The girl stuck out her tongue, not daring to say anything more, and hid inside to help her mother cook. The man stood up and looked at the young man, apologizing. Young man, don't mind him. This little girl, doesn't understand yet. Let me see how well your body has recovered. The young man nodded, sat down beside the middle-aged man, and extended his right arm. His arm was extremely thin. The middle-aged man took his pulse, his eyes thoughtful. After a while, his face lit up with joy, and he said, Young man, your injuries are recovering very well. I'll prescribe a few more doses of medicine for you to nourish yourself, and you'll be completely healthy. The young man remained silent, nodding. The middle-aged man sighed inwardly at the sight of the other man. He had encountered this man last month while going to gather herbs. At that time, the man was in critical condition. Driven by his compassionate nature, he had taken him home to treat him. The man's injuries were severe, his internal organs were displaced, and many other areas were damaged. He wasn't sure if he could save him. But this person's body was incredibly miraculous. Within just a few days, their condition improved, and they regained consciousness. However, when they woke up, they didn't speak at all, as if they were deaf and mute. At this moment, a woman came out of the room, followed by the young girl. They carried some food and placed it on the table. Mother, I'm not eating with that mute person. They're so ugly, I can't eat them. The young girl pouted. You. The middle-aged man was about to scold her, but the woman stopped him. She picked up some food for the young girl and said, go inside and eat. The young girl pouted, about to say something. At this moment, the young man, holding a bowl of rice in his hand, tremblingly stood up, walked out of the courtyard, sat down on a large rock, stared blankly at the bowl of rice in his hand, and remained silent. He was the person whose whereabouts the entire cultivation world was currently seeking, Wang Lin. A figure who once shone like the midday sun had now fallen to this level. Everything was bestowed upon him by the giant clan and the Snow Region Kingdom. Wang Lin's right hand trembled as he put down his rice bowl, a bitter smile appearing on his lips. His primordial spirit had been shattered in the past month. However, shattered didn't mean it disappeared, but rather it had broken into countless small pieces hidden deep within his body. As time passed, these small pieces were slowly dissipating. His body was severely injured. By some strange twist of fate, the shattered primordial spirit had miraculously produced a trace of spiritual power, repairing his body. Thanks to this, his body had recovered. However, he had now lost all his spiritual power, becoming a mere mortal. Moreover, he didn't even have the strength to hold a bowl of rice. Without his divine abilities, even a mortal could knock him down with a single punch. Even more unexpectedly, because his primordial spirit was shattered, even his true self in the distance was affected, falling into a deep sleep from which it could not awaken. This was truly bad news for Wang Lin. If his true form hadn't fallen into a deep sleep, he could have come to retrieve him, found a place with abundant spiritual energy to cultivate, and thus had a chance to recover. But now, everything had vanished like a bubble. He wasn't mute, but simply didn't want to speak. His face was covered in scars, making him look incredibly ugly, frightening anyone who saw him. In this mountain village, for the past month, except for the doctor and his wife, no one had spoken a kind word to him. Without spiritual energy, his storage bag was naturally unopenable. Now he had completely become immortal. After a long while, Wang Lin sighed softly, picked up his bowl of rice, and took a few bites. 9 years from now, Wana will have to enter the cycle of reincarnation again. 9 years. Wang Lin swallowed the rice, a look of determination in his eyes. For the past month, he had constantly wondered how he could restore his cultivation. Once the seal of the realm of intent is broken, everything will be resolved. But how to break it, Wang Lin is still vaguely unsure. Late at night, Wang Lin lay in the woodshed, gradually falling asleep. His body was extremely weak, without a shred of strength left. The next morning, the middle-aged man, carrying a basket of herbs on his back, invited several hunters to go up the mountain to gather herbs. Wang Lin opened his eyes, sat cross-legged silently in the woodshed. He sighed inwardly. He had not a single trace of spiritual power in his body. He couldn't absorb it at all. Unless he was in a place with extremely concentrated spiritual power, only then could he generate a trace of spiritual power within his body. He shook his head with a bitter smile and left the room, his body still as weak as before. Just then, the young woman also came out of the room. After seeing Wang Lin, she curled her lips and said, "Ugly mute, you've been in my house for a month now. When are you going to leave? Our house isn't a charity. We don't have that much rice to feed you," the young woman said, coming out of the room. "How many times has your father told you to call him uncle?" The young girl grumbled. "How many times has your father told you to call him scholar?" She walked towards the door. The dog darted out from the corner of the courtyard, wagging its tail as it followed her. The young woman glanced at Wang Lin, apologetically saying, "The child doesn't understand. Don't take it to heart. His father went up the mountain to gather herbs, saying that your body is weak and needs nourishment. Just stay here and rest assured, it's not too late to leave when your body recovers." Another half-month passed in a flash. During this half-month, after taking the medicine from the middle-aged man, Wang Lin's body gradually regained some strength. One night, Wang Lin left the woodshed, looked at where the middle-aged man lived, memorized his thoughts, and turned to leave. He had to go. For the past month, Wang Lin had stockpiled some dried food, carrying it on his back. He left the village. At this moment, he suddenly remembered many years ago when he hadn't been chosen by the Hengyu sect and had silently left home alone in the night. As a result, his fate had turned around to this day. He sighed softly and walked into the distance. He didn't know where he was. When he was teleported, he didn't have time to know where he would be transported. At this moment, he only hoped to find a place with a spiritual vein, where he could cultivate, release a trace of spiritual power, and then find a way to break the seal on his realm of consciousness. Late at night, a cold wind swept in. Wang Lin's body couldn't help but shiver. He thought miserably to himself, how many years had it been since he had felt this feeling of being immortal? Even when he had become immortal, it was still far better than now. Along the way, Wang Lin would gasp for breath and have to sit down to rest. Therefore, his speed was obviously very slow. After 7 days, he was still on the road. Although he had lost all his spiritual power, his senses remained. Along the way, he had encountered many places with spiritual energy. Unfortunately, in these places, no matter how much he cultivated, he couldn't generate even a single bit of spiritual power. Perhaps only in a few of the mountain sects of cultivation schools can one find places with such concentrated spiritual energy, Wang Lin thought to himself. However, with his current physical condition, how could he possibly enter a cultivation sect? Wang Lin sighed, looking at the sky, a flicker of despair rising in his heart. But this despair was immediately and forcefully pushed aside. He took a deep breath and murmured to himself, Snow Domain Kingdom, Giant Demon Clan, I, Wang Lin, will never give up. One day I will repay you 100-fold for what you have done to me. His eyes showed determination as he stood up and continued his journey. But at that moment, a series of hoofbeats sounded from behind. The roaring sounds shattered the quiet night. Simultaneously with the sound of hooves, a group of black horses galloped forward. Riding on their backs were a group of burly men. Their temples bulged, and their faces were fierce. As they rode past Wang Lin, a burly man with a scar on his face suddenly reined in his horse, staring intently at Wang Lin, then laughed loudly, saying, "Ha ha, what a nasty little brat. He's perfect as a roadblock." He bent down, extended his large hand, and grabbed Wang Lin's clothes, seizing him. "Fourth brother Ma, what are you doing?" A shout came from ahead. "Boss, I'll capture this ugly brat, chop off his limbs, and place him on the road to block the Tianwei Escort Agency's convoy." "Isn't that better than us brothers disguising ourselves?" The burly man chuckled, urging his horse forward. The horse immediately galloped ahead. "Boss, look." The burly man caught up, holding Wang Lin up in his hand and laughing. Wang Lin closed his eyes, his heart filled with rage. He never imagined that someone from the martial arts world could so casually humiliate him. On the horse in front was a burly man with an extremely imposing physique. He glared at Wang Lin, nodded, and said, "All right, take them." 18 horses simultaneously galloped away. At a valley more than 3 miles away, these men reined in their horses, quickly dispersing and hiding in a gorge. Their movements were extremely skillful, clearly indicating they were used to this kind of thing. In an instant, only the man with the scar on his face remained facing Wang Lin. "Little Six, lead the horse for your brother," the scarred man said, and a thin man immediately emerged, leading his horse into the forest. "Kid, you're unlucky." The scarred man looked at Wang Lin with a ferocious grin, raising his right hand and striking Wang Lin's jawbone. Then he let out a low growl, pointing his fingers at Wang Lin's legs and shoulders. With just a few cracking sounds, Wang Lin's thigh and shoulder bones immediately ached intensely. Large beads of sweat beaded on his forehead, and his eyes glared at the scarred man. He wanted to remember the man's appearance. The scarred man snorted softly, took a packet of medicinal powder from his chest, carefully sprinkled it on Wang Lin's wounds, then moved, disappearing into the trees. Wang Lin fell to the ground, a murderous look on his face. He had never been treated like this before. However, his body was too weak, and he gradually drifted into unconsciousness. Time passed slowly. After a long while, the sound of a carriage clattering in the distance grew closer. Suddenly, the carriage stopped. A swift horse galloped forward. A handsome young man stopped before Wang Lin, glanced at him briefly, then turned and shouted, "Captain, it's a corpse." After speaking, he dismounted, kicked Wang Lin aside, then mounted his horse and returned to the convoy. The convoy continued its advance. Just as they passed Wang Lin's position, torches suddenly blazed brightly from all sides. A long burst of laughter rang out. "Tianwei Escort Agency. You think that by taking a detour I won't rob you, charge?" A loud shout came from the trees. Immediately afterward, 18 burly men emerged. The moment the torches lit up, the medicinal powder on Wang Lin's body instantly dispersed. A smellless and odorless gas quickly spread, enveloping the entire convoy. Fire cloud poison. A terrified scream came from within the convoy. Immediately afterward, the escorts in the convoy felt excruciating pain and lost all strength. That's right. That's the special poison used by our 18 Fire Cloud heroes. Hehe, using blood to store the poison, using fire to ignite it. None of you will escape today. A massacre ensued. In just half an incense stick's time, more than half of the caravan had been killed. A series of agonizing screams rang out. Under the flickering torchlight, the 18 villains, amidst the dim light, their faces extremely ferocious, each blow of their swords claimed a life. Haha, big brother, there are still 3 women. This time we can have some fun when we return. The scarred man swung his sword, beheading a man, and dragged a young woman out of the car. This woman, though somewhat attractive, screamed loudly, her face pale, her eyes filled with terror. The scarred man laughed heartily, groping the young woman all over, chuckling lewdly a few times, then lifted her up, letting her hit him on the back. At this moment, 2 more burly men quickly dragged 2 more women out of the carriage, laughing heartily and whistling loudly. All the horses hidden in the forest galloped out. The extremely handsome man took a brocade box from the carriage, opened it, glanced inside, and immediately smiled with satisfaction, saying, "Brothers, let's go." These men then mounted their horses and, amidst the wailing of the women, departed. The scarred man passed by Wang Lin, smiling, and said, "Boss, let's take this kid along. We'll keep him for a few days and use him later." The handsome man nodded and quickly rode away. The scarred man kicked Wang Lin, sending him flying towards another man. He seized Wang Lin, then the whole group roared and sped away, disappearing without a trace in an instant, leaving behind only corpses and pools of blood. As dawn broke, the 18 people arrived at a certain mountain. On the mountainside stood a huge mountain stronghold, above which was written a large character, "Fire." "The chief has returned. Open the gate." The mountain stronghold's gate burst open with a roar. 18 men rushed in, shouting. The stronghold instantly became chaotic. The scarred man, holding the young woman in his arms, dismounted and laughed, saying, "Boss, I'll go enjoy some pleasure first." He then slipped into a room. Soon after, the woman's agonizing screams echoed from within. The other men, clearly accustomed to this, burst into laughter. 2 other women were also taken away. Wang Lin was thrown into the water prison behind the stronghold. Before him was a pitch-black void, devoid of light and sound, his feet suspended in the darkness. His body floated, helplessly swaying in the night. Wang Lin struggled to shake his head. A searing pain shot through his limbs, like molten iron piercing his flesh. Wang Lin opened his eyes, fully awake. A faint, agonizing scream echoed from afar. The sound was extremely faint when it reached here. Yet, amidst this silent darkness, the cries still lingered incessantly. After losing his spiritual power and his primordial spirit shattered, Wang Lin's eyes could no longer see things as before. The surroundings were pitch black. He only knew he was trapped in a small, confined space. His hands were tightly bound, his entire body suspended, submerged in icy water. The invisible water had risen to his neck, emitting a foul, nauseating stench. Occasionally, waves crashed against his mouth, nose, and wounds. Wang Lin held his breath, lifting his head, feeling as if he were trapped in a well. The distant cries had vanished, and the surroundings were as silent as a grave. When a cultivator loses everything, they are ultimately inferior to a mortal. Wang Lin's eyes were calm, a deep, resentful anger flickering within them. The Wang Lin of yesteryear, who could command the wind and rain, was no more. Now only one person remained, his spiritual power depleted, his primordial spirit shattered, a mere mortal unable to even tie a chicken's legs. He couldn't even open his storage bag. At this moment, the storage bag had disappeared, obviously seized by those martial artists. Meanwhile, in the sky above the fire cloud camp, the striking figure of Limi flashed past. She didn't even glance around. She had no idea that the person she was looking for was in this mountain camp. Wang Lin remained silent, but his eyes shone brightly, growing brighter and brighter. He had realized, while in the water prison, that the spiritual energy here was many times more concentrated than in any place he had encountered along the way. And this spiritual energy wasn't emanating from the mountains, but from the water. Wang Lin's eyes brightened, and he slowly closed them, quietly absorbing the energy. The place where he was completely silent, in a way similar to a monk's secluded retreat. Wang Lin's entire body floated in the water. As he breathed in and out, a faint wisp of spiritual energy in the water slowly thickened. However, there seemed to be a thin barrier around Wang Lin's body, hindering the absorption of spiritual energy into his body. Even if a wisp entered his body, it was immediately repelled by that barrier. Therefore, as time passed, the spiritual energy in the water prison gradually became denser. Although it was nighttime, the fire cloud camp was brightly lit with torches. Music emanated from within, interspersed with the piercing screams of women. At this moment, in a relatively opulent pavilion in the mountain camp, the burly man sat in a room. Before him lay a wooden box. Inside the box was a luminous pearl the size of a fist, emitting a soft light. The burly man held the luminous pearl in his hand, examining it closely for a long time, his eyes revealing a greedy glint as he muttered, "What a truly large pearl! It will surely fetch a high price." After a while, he put down the pearl, closed the brocade box, and his gaze fell on another object on the table. It was a gray pouch. The burly man picked up the pouch. It was incredibly light, seemingly empty. Even stranger, the pouch had no opening, which surprised him. "What is this?" The burly man pondered for a moment, then muttered softly, tearing at it with all his might. But no matter how hard he tried, veins bulging on his face, he couldn't tear the pouch. This must be heavenly silkworm silk. It must be, otherwise, why can't I tear it? Legend says heavenly silkworm silk fears fire the most. Humph, let me try burning it. The burly man's eyes flashed, and he took a candle and placed the pouch on it. After a long while, the bag remained unchanged. The big man was stunned. He didn't even feel any heat on the bag. Huh? What is this thing? The big man pulled out a long sword that he had spent a large sum of money to have forged, extremely sharp, capable of cutting hair one. At this moment, the long sword in his hand flashed at the bag. One, so sharp that even a hair or strand of hair falling on it would be cut in half. He raised the sword, looked at the bag again, and immediately his eyes showed a look of horror. He held the money bag for a long time, laughing heartily. A treasure. This is truly a treasure. Putting this on my chest can save my life at a crucial moment. I didn't expect that ugly little brat to have such a treasure. It's a pity there isn't more. Otherwise, I could find a way to make a set of clothes for it. He carefully placed the bag on his chest. He carefully placed the bag against his chest, his eyes gleaming as he thought to himself, that ugly brat must have gotten his hands on some treasure somewhere. I must go and interrogate him. Thinking this, he stood up, left the building, and headed straight for the mountain stronghold's dungeon. Along the way, anyone who saw him showed a subservient and obsequious demeanor. The big man hurried to the water prison. Two henchmen were chatting there. Seeing him approach, they quickly stood at attention and loudly said, "Greetings, great leader." The big man snorted softly and said, "Where is that ugly brat who was brought back locked up?" One henchman immediately replied, "In the water prison in the north." "Open the door," the big man said. The henchman rushed to a large steel mesh, lifted it, and said with a smile, "Great leader." Before he could finish speaking, his body suddenly went limp, and he fell headfirst to the ground. A splashing sound, like something falling into water, echoed from within the net, and immediately afterward, a young man with countless scars on his face gently stepped out. The young man's eyes were filled with icy coldness and overwhelming rage. The burly man's eyes widened in astonishment. He stared in disbelief at the figure flying out, then reacted instantly, his body trembling as he turned and fled. However, he had only taken 2 steps when an invisible giant hand grabbed him, squeezing him so tightly that he was instantly reduced to a pulp before he could even let out a scream. The pouch on his chest immediately flew up and landed in the young man's hand. This young man was Wang Lin. Remembering the spiritual power he had in the water prison, he had used all his strength and finally broken through, leaving a trace of spiritual power in his body. However, this trace of spiritual power was far too little. After flying out of the dungeon and killing 2 people, his spiritual power was almost completely depleted. He immediately channeled his spiritual power into his storage pouch, the Beast of Literature. Instantly, a green light flashed in the storage bag, followed by a dark beam of light that shot out. With a loud bang, it transformed into a beast of literature as large as a small mountain in midair. The remaining henchman was terrified, his body trembling, and a pungent smell of urine filled the air. His pants were soaked, and he collapsed, having fainted from fright. The beast of literature, upon appearing, immediately let out a roar. This roar echoed throughout the mountain stronghold. Instantly, all other sounds in the stronghold vanished, leaving only the furious roar of the beast of literature. It was telepathically connected to Wang Lin. Seeing Wang Lin's weakened state, it became enraged and, without waiting for Wang Lin's command, sucked in the fallen body. The body trembled and almost instantly turned into a skeleton. After releasing the spirit beast, Wang Lin breathed a sigh of relief. His spiritual power was completely depleted. But as long as the spirit beast was by his side, his safety was guaranteed. The spirit beast roared, instantly terrifying everyone in the mountain stronghold, who rushed forward with weapons from all directions. However, after only a few steps, upon seeing this ferocious creature as large as a small mountain, they all gasped, their legs turning to jelly. Some cowardly individuals screamed, terrified to the point of losing their wits. Demon, Wang Lin's joints still ached. His eyes flashed with cold light, and with a glance, he recognized the scarred man. He pointed, and the spirit beast roared again. This time, instead of sucking, it slammed its massive body into him. Under the impact, the scarred man let out a pain cry and instantly turned into a pile of mangled flesh. Even the buildings behind him crumbled with a loud crash. The mythical beast flew up, hovering above Wang Lin's head, and swept its wings across. At this moment, all the people in the mountain stronghold had laid down their weapons. Their legs trembled, and their faces were filled with extreme terror. At this moment, a person stepped out. This person was a scholar, his body trembling, but his face tried to remain calm. After a long time, he still bowed his head and said in a trembling voice, "Please, immortal, don't be angry. Don't be angry. We didn't know your identity before. We truly didn't know." Wang Lin stared at this person and asked in a low voice, "Where is this place?" The scholar hurriedly said, "This is the Pilu Kingdom in the north, Pilu Kingdom. This is the northern part of the Vermilion Bird Continent." Wang Lin pondered for a moment and said, "Dig up this dungeon and see where the water inside comes from." "How many days will it take?" the scholar said in a trembling voice. 3 days. "No, 1 day. 1 day will be enough." Wang Lin nodded and said, "Begin." He ordered his beast to do the digging while keeping it by his side to protect him. The scholar breathed a sigh of relief, quickly turned around and shouted, "Come here, dig this place up." Everyone in the mountain stronghold sprang into action. However, these people were now too terrified, their bodies trembling, lacking the strength to do anything. Especially the 16 people who had captured Wang Lin were even more frightened to death. Wang Lin closed his eyes to rest, quietly breathing in and out. The spirit beast in midair circled once and then landed beside Wang Lin, its eyes showing a fierce look, staring intently at the others. More than 200 people from the Fire Cloud stronghold were forced to use all their strength, from childhood to adulthood, to dig up this water prison. All the foul-smelling, black water flowed out. But strangely, the water, which was initially dirty, became clearer and clearer as it flowed, even emitting a fragrant scent. A day passed, and the stream of water gradually diminished. Everyone in the mountain stronghold stopped working, fearfully looking at Wang Lin. Wang Lin ignored them. With the help of the spirit beast, his body sank down, falling into the water prison. At this moment, the water prison resembled a deep lake. Sitting inside, Wang Lin closed his eyes and quietly practiced his breathing exercises. The spirit beast guarded him constantly. Anyone who dared approach would pay with their life. After waiting for a long time without any command from Wang Lin, the spirit beast hesitated slightly, retreating a few steps. Seeing that the spirit beast showed no reaction, he finally breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly retreated a few more steps. The others in the mountain stronghold signaled to each other, and soon there was not a soul left. Just as everyone was about to take the opportunity to escape the stronghold, they suddenly heard Wang Lin's voice echoing from the deep lake. "No one is allowed to leave," the spirit beast inwardly groaned in distress and hastily bowed respectfully. Thus, the Fire Cloud camp had never been so quiet. There was hardly a sound all day, like a death prison. For the past few days, travelers passing through were astonished. The Fire Cloud 18 heroes, who had been so domineering here, had suddenly disappeared for 2 months. One day, Wang Lin opened his eyes in the lake. His injuries had completely healed, but the seal on his spiritual realm remained unbroken. In 2 months, I've only recovered to the second level of the Cha condensation stage. It seems this seal, combined with the T's spiritual realm, is too powerful. I need to find a place with even more abundant spiritual energy. It's a pity my shattered primordial spirit is hidden deep within my body, preventing me from retrieving the heaven-defying pearl. Without it, accumulating spiritual energy would definitely allow me to recover faster. However, I still have top-grade spirit stones, so I don't have to worry about a lack of spiritual energy in the short term. The most important thing right now is to recover my primordial spirit and retrieve the heaven-defying pearl as soon as possible. But this place is clearly not a spiritual vein. Yet there is spiritual power in the water. How strange. Wang Lin pondered for a moment. His body flashed, and he dived into the depths of the lake. Previously, he had always cultivated while floating in the water, never sinking even a little. Now that his cultivation had recovered somewhat, he decided to investigate the reason. However, Wang Lin also knew that his current cultivation was too weak. If danger arose, he would immediately summon his spirit beast. Very quickly, he sank to the bottom of the lake. The water in the lake was very clear, and he could see the deepest point at a glance. At the bottom of the dungeon, the water was very clear, but the ground was pitch black, covered with a thick layer of mud. Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and he formed a hand seal. A low-level spell that he hadn't used in a long time appeared in his hand. After a while, a mass of liquid mud was lifted up, and a foul stench immediately spread throughout the cool blue water. A pitch-black color quickly spread out. Wang Lin's body flashed, like a fish darting forward. The black water quickly chased after him. Wang Lin leapt out of the water, his body soaring upwards, and his right hand pressed down. Under the control of the force-grasping technique, most of the muddy water immediately flowed out through the opening. After a while, the water gradually cleared, and Wang Lin's body entered the water prison once again. After 3 such attempts, the thick layer of mud at the bottom of the water prison was completely washed away, revealing the scene inside. At the bottom of the water was a circular formation. At 3 positions on this formation were 3 spirit stones. If they were ordinary spirit stones, it wouldn't be a problem, but Wang Lin recognized at a glance that they were not ordinary spirit stones, radiating spiritual energy. These were unexpectedly top-grade spirit stones. No wonder there's spiritual power in the water instead of a spiritual vein. Wang Lin's gaze froze, staring intently. The 3 top-grade spirit stones on the formation diagram had all turned gray, obviously having been there for a long time and were on the verge of decay. But that wasn't what caught Wang Lin's attention. What truly interested him was the object within the formation itself. It was a skeleton. Judging by its appearance, it was clearly a female skeleton. Her remains were in a bizarre posture, impaled by numerous black nails. 3 top-grade spirit stones to seal a skeleton. That's a hefty price. Wang Lin glanced at it and immediately recognized the purpose of the formation, sealing. He pointed at the skeleton's right finger, which was impaled by the nails. After a moment of silence, Wang Lin didn't dare act rashly and swam upwards, intending to leave. But at that moment, a fierce golden light suddenly flashed from Wang Lin's storage bag. A powerful force emanated from within. This was the first time in Wang Lin's life he had encountered such a phenomenon. The object inside the storage bag was able to spontaneously and uncontrollably escape. Suddenly, the painting that Wang Lin had inadvertently obtained years ago, which he had been unable to fully study or even use, flew out of his storage bag. Wang Lin's eyes widened in surprise. The appearance of this painting had caused a stir among the hunchbacked old man of the immortal tribe. After that encounter, he concluded that it must contain a great secret. Now, the painting flew out, slowly unfolding. A black curtain, accompanied by cell-shaking sounds, emerged from within. At the same time, the skeleton within the formation emitted bursts of purple light. The face of the skeleton, in particular, emitted a denser light. Gradually, a fist-sized purple halo slowly gathered around the skeleton, then was quickly absorbed into the painting, disappearing without a trace. The skeleton immediately shattered, turning into a cloud of black dust that dissolved into the water and sank to the bottom of the water prison. The events unfolded extremely quickly. After absorbing the halo of light, the painting slowly closed and gradually fell. Wang Lin grabbed it, holding the painting in his hand. He hesitated slightly but didn't investigate further, instead rushing out of the water. After emerging from the water, Wang Lin's face was full of doubt. He held the painting thoughtfully for a while, then slowly opened it. Inside the originally pitch-black painting, there was now a purple mark, constantly flashing. It was difficult to spot without careful observation. After a long time, Wang Lin frowned. He still couldn't understand this painting clearly. If it was a treasure, why did it fall into the hands of a core formation cultivator? After a moment of silence, Wang Lin put away the painting, looked at the water prison, and fell into deep thought again. The remains in the water prison were very mysterious and had to be sealed with top-grade spirit stones. This person, when alive, must have possessed extraordinary magical abilities. But who sealed her here? Compared to the skeleton, that painting was even more mysterious. What exactly was that purple light? Beast, summon that middle-aged scholar here. Wang Lin's eyes flashed as he spoke. The beast immediately roared, its body flashing as it rushed out. With a whoosh, the entire snow-covered mountain shook violently. Fortunately, there wasn't much snow, so it didn't cause an avalanche. But its roar terrified everyone in the mountain village, causing them to secretly groan in fear and dare not come out. The beast's eyes flashed with ferocity, its body like a shooting star, crashing down with a loud bang into a room. Its huge mouth opened, stopping 3 inches away from a stunned man standing in the room. That man was the middle-aged scholar. Upon seeing the enormous mouth, he swayed terrified and fell unconscious. The beast's mouth moved, snatching him up and flying to Wang Lin's side, throwing him down. The middle-aged scholar, after falling to the ground, immediately regained consciousness, his face pale, his eyes filled with fear. "How did you discover this water prison?" Wang Lin asked in a low voice. "Immortal, many years ago, this place was a desolate mountain. Once a whirlwind passed through, shattering the mountain and forming this place. This water prison only appeared after that event. The leader saw it and thought it was a very good place to imprison someone, so he transformed it into a water prison," the middle-aged scholar said, trembling. Wang Lin looked up at the mountain. There were indeed traces of collapse on the mountain, faded by the passage of time. Clearly, what this person said was not wrong. Therefore, this mountain had probably been the place where this skeleton was suppressed countless years ago. Unfortunately, an earthquake occurred here, creating such a hole, finally allowing the skeleton to see the sunlight. But who exactly was she? Wang Lin waved his right hand, dismissing the middle-aged scholar. Then his eyes flickered, and he withdrew his thoughts, no longer pondering this matter, but focusing on how to restore his cultivation. The top-grade spirit stones in the country were almost depleted, and the supply of spiritual power was weakening. Although this rate of weakening would take countless more years to reach the point of complete depletion, it was no longer enough to satisfy Wang Lin's desires. He sat down cross-legged, patted his storage bag. Immediately, 3 top-grade spirit stones appeared in his hand, which he placed around his body, then closed his eyes and began to cultivate. Months passed, the moon rose and set, and in the blink of an eye, 3 months had gone by. By now, Wang Lin had left the Chu Kingdom for half a year. At this time, winter had arrived in the Pilu Kingdom, and the cold wind swept in, chilling to the bone. No one had descended from the mountain for more than half a year. Fortunately, the food reserves were quite plentiful, enough to last through the winter. For 3 months, Wang Lin remained motionless, continuously absorbing the spiritual power from the top-grade spirit stones, accumulating it within his body, and simultaneously breaking the seal on his mental state. His cultivation, aided by the top-grade spirit stones, had recovered to the 6th level of the Cha condensation stage during these 3 months. The spirit beast continued to guard Wang Lin, occasionally glaring fiercely into the distance towards the Chu Kingdom. It misled Washington somewhat. Although they often fought, the long separation still caused it to feel a pang of longing. One day, Wang Lin opened his eyes, his gaze like lightning. He potted his storage bag and took out 5 more top-grade spirit stones, placing them around his body. After a moment of silence, he touched the scars on his face, a look of determination in his eyes. Without a word, he closed his eyes again, frantically absorbing the spiritual power from the 8 top-grade spirit stones. This spiritual power condensed outside his body, and at this moment, Wang Lin's entire body radiated waves of green light. A gentle aura permeated the space. As the spiritual power within his body increased, Wang Lin let out a soft shout, instantly channeling all the spiritual power he possessed at the 6th stage of the Qi condensation realm outwards, counteracting the immense external spiritual power that was surging back into his body. At this moment, Wang Lin's body was like an iron plate. The spiritual power within him was like a hammer, while the external spiritual power was like a massive mace. Both simultaneously struck the iron plate, piercing it. Under a series of bombardments, Wang Lin's face grew even paler. The scars on his face suddenly flashed with black light, moving in a bizarre manner, resembling a formation from afar. Once it completed a rotation, a large amount of spiritual power was drawn in. Wang Lin opened his eyes wide, a hint of hesitation in them, but it was immediately replaced by determination. He took a deep breath and retrieved a white jade stone from his storage bag. In the blink of an eye, this jade stone appeared, and the circle of spiritual power suddenly darkened, unexpectedly splitting apart. Immortal jade, swallowing this is like swallowing a poisonous elixir. But now, the seal in my body and the tea-infused realm are like poison. Using poison against poison is the fastest way to break through. Wang Lin remained silent for a moment, then picked up the finger-sized piece of immortal jade and put it directly into his mouth. The moment the immortal jade entered his mouth, a massive surge of immortal power rushed wildly through Wang Lin's body, its force like a raging flood, shaking the heavens. The spiritual power in his body dissipated. Compared to immortal power, it was truly insignificant. Having experienced devouring immortal jade once before, the same feeling returned. Wang Lin's eyes were calm. He concentrated his breathing, controlling this surge of immortal power, frantically attacking the seal. Once, twice, 3 times. Each time the attack struck, Wang Lin's body trembled. But the scar on his face, caused by the tea-infused intent, trembled even more violently, even beginning to show tiny cracks. Even the place where he sat, under the influence of the immortal power within his body, began to crack, spreading in all directions. Several buildings were instantly destroyed. A gust of wind blew through, and those buildings turned to dust, scattering in the wind. Suddenly, a few cracking sounds emanated from Wang Lin's body. Then, a tenth of the scar on his face broke off, slowly falling from his face. The moment it fell, a wisp of black energy rose up, condensing above Wang Lin's head without dissipating. Wang Lin's face was pale, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth, but his eyes shone brightly. The scar on his face and the seal, under the bombardment of the immortal jade, finally showed a hole. As soon as the rift appeared, a massive surge of spiritual power immediately flowed from the immortal jade throughout Wang Lin's body. At the same time, a small fragment of his primordial spirit within him trembled and slowly retracted. Although not fully recovered, it didn't dissipate either. Wang Lin immediately sat down, closed his eyes, and meditated. 3 days later, the sky was pitch black, and heavy snow fell, covering the entire mountain. From afar, the snow-covered mountain looked no different from a snow-capped peak. Snowflakes that fell within 3 feet of Wang Lin melted. Gradually, a circle of water formed around him. The scar on his face was no longer as severe as before. It had lessened considerably. Wang Lin opened his eyes, which sparkled with intelligence. The scar has faded by 1/10, and the seal has loosened. My cultivation has recovered to the early foundation establishment stage. Many of the magic treasures in my storage bag can now be used, albeit barely. Moreover, with the spirit beast, as long as I don't encounter a nascent soul cultivator, there will be no more danger. However, swallowing that immortal jade just now has made it difficult for my body to withstand. If I swallow more, I'm afraid I'll turn to dust before I can break the seal. Right now, the only way is to quickly reach the golden core stage, then swallow another immortal jade to see if I can use the opportunity to break more scars and seals. However, top-grade spirit stones are limited. Continuing like this isn't a long-term plan. Now I need to find a place with abundant spiritual energy to cultivate peacefully. No matter what, I must restore my cultivation within 9 years. Wang Lin pondered for a moment, his eyes flashing, then he mounted the Wind Beast and departed. The Wind Beast let out a joyful cry, lifting Wang Lin into the air. Wang Lin glanced down at the fire cloud camp. After killing the scarred man, his anger had subsided by half. He patted the Wind Beast's large head, and its body flashed, roaring as it sped away. Slow down. Wang Lin's expression changed. His cultivation had only recovered to the early foundation establishment stage, and he couldn't withstand the One Beast's speed, which was equivalent to a late nascent soul stage. When flying at full power, the One Beast immediately slowed down, flying slowly. Sitting on the One Beast's back, Wang Lin carefully examined the Jade Slip map, then his gaze turned south. That was the soul refining sect of Pailuo Kingdom. Wang Lin chose the soul refining sect because it was the only unique sect in Pailuo Kingdom. While its core disciples numbered only a few hundred, its outer disciples numbered in the tens of thousands. Compared to the other two sects in Pailuo Kingdom, the soul refining sect had fewer core disciples, but their strength was comparable. The fact that they could achieve this with only a few hundred core disciples was due not only to the sect's unique cultivation techniques, but also to the high cultivation level of its core disciples. The soul refining sect never actively accepted ordinary mortals as disciples. There was only one way to enter the sect. One had to first become an outer disciple. Every 3 years, the outer disciples held a competition to select one core disciple. Simultaneously, the core disciples also held a competition to eliminate others. Therefore, even those who made it into the core disciple group could still be eliminated. The method to become an outer disciple is very simple. Just pay a certain amount of spirit stones, and you can have the status of an outer disciple for a period of time. Outside the mountain gate of the soul refining sect are several large mountains. The spiritual energy here is several times denser than outside. This is where the outer disciples reside. Although called outer disciples, it's really just like paying spirit stones to rent a cave dwelling for cultivation. This method of the soul refining sect is extremely unique and rarely seen on the Vermilion Bird Star. However, few people know the official reason. That's why Wang Lin chose the soul refining sect. All the information related to the soul refining sect is described in detail on the Jade Slip map. According to Wang Lin's speculation, the person who sold him this Jade Slip probably also lived in the soul refining sect for a while as an outer disciple. After all, the Pailuo Kingdom is a 5th-tier cultivation kingdom, and there are many cultivation families there. These clans all depended on the 3 major sects, sending disciples to the 3 major sects every few decades. These disciples had no special privileges, and their status was not particularly noble unless they possessed exceptionally extraordinary talent. Otherwise, they all rose from the lowest ranks. Wang Lin rode the spirit beast, and after 7 days, he arrived at a place about 1,000 miles from the soul refining sect. At this point, he retracted the spirit beast, took out an ordinary flying sword, and controlled it to transform into a shooting star, flying towards the soul refining sect. Soon, the soul refining sect appeared in his sight. However, when he was still a few dozen miles away, an invisible and silent ripple spread out, preventing him from entering. Wang Lin knew this must be the soul refining sect's mountain protection formation, so he quickly retracted his flying sword and descended. At that moment, a streak of crimson light suddenly rushed from the horizon, accompanied by a tearing sound, like a raging storm sweeping through, causing the trees all around to sway and their leaves to rustle. The crimson light, upon approaching, transformed into a red-haired old man. This man had a peculiar face. His mouth and nose were enormous, but his eyes were very small, giving off an aura of overwhelming power. Upon seeing him, Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and he immediately stood respectfully. The old man, about to enter the soul refining sect, suddenly turned and glanced at Wang Lin, exclaiming in surprise. Looking at the scar on his face, he shouted, "Which sect's disciple are you?" Wang Lin hastily and respectfully replied, "I am a rogue cultivator." Wishing to join the soul refining sect as an outer disciple, the old man looked at Wang Lin, nodded, and said, "It's not easy for a rogue cultivator to reach the foundation establishment stage. You want to become a disciple of our soul refining sect to find a place for secluded cultivation, right?" Wang Lin's eyes showed fear, and he quickly said, "That's exactly what I intend to do." The old man waved his sleeve and said, "You're too late. The disciple recruitment day has long passed. Go back and wait a few more years." As he spoke, the old man began to walk away. Wang Lin's heart turned cold, but he feigned sorrow on his face. He took out a brocade box from his storage bag and respectfully said, "Senior, this is a flying sword I obtained by chance many years ago and have never dared to use. Please accept it. I only wish to become an outer disciple. Wang Lin could tell at a glance that this old man had only reached the early stage of the core formation realm. For someone with such cultivation, this flying sword was already a very precious item. The old man stopped, giving Wang Lin a half-smile, half-frown look, thinking to himself, indeed, a rogue cultivator, far more resourceful than the disciples of a cultivation family. He waved his right hand, and the brocade box flew into his hand. Upon opening it, a look of surprise and joy appeared in his eyes. Immediately, he calmed down, pretending nothing had happened, and said, "Where did you find this?" Wang Lin respectfully replied, "Many years ago. I met a core formation cultivator and helped him heal his injuries. After his injuries healed, he gave me this sword, but my cultivation level is insufficient, so I cannot use it." "Huh? How were you injured? Describe it." The old man's eyes flashed as he spoke. With his hundreds of years of cultivation experience, Wang Lin's casual description sounded perfectly accurate. The old man listened without any doubt. After all, this was only a foundation establishment cultivator. Without witnessing it firsthand, he couldn't possibly describe it so accurately. Moreover, the other party's description was similar, but with some unclear points, which was normal. If he described it in too much detail, it would be false. "All right, I see your cultivation level is not bad, so I'll make an exception this time. Follow me." As he spoke, the old man's body flashed, entering the soul refining sect. At the same time, he produced a token with his right hand and pressed it backward. Immediately, the ripples blocking Wang Lin's path dissipated. Wang Lin hurried inside. "Follow me. Our soul refining sect has many restrictions. If you go the wrong way, I won't be able to save you, he old man said, then flew forward. Wang Lin patted his storage bag and took out a flying sword. He stepped onto the flying sword and followed the old man. After a while, the old man stopped on a mountain. There was a magnificent palace there, surrounded by countless rooms. The old man landed and shouted, "Chang Dowei." Coming right away, "Hong Maozi, what do you want?" A lazy voice came from one of the rooms. Immediately, a middle-aged man emerged. His hair was disheveled, looking as if he hadn't washed his face in years. The red-haired old man laughed heartily and said, "This is a disciple I met on the road. You can accept him as an outer disciple." The middle-aged man yawned, tilted his head and glanced at Wang Lin, who was standing behind the red-haired old man, and said lazily, "Since you, red-haired man one, have spoken, how can I refuse?" "One, red-haired man." The red-haired old man smiled and said, "Well then, this time I left the mountain and collected more than 100 vengeful spirits. It just so happens that I need to refine a main soul for my soul banner. After I'm done, I'll come back to find you for a drink." As he spoke, his body flashed and he flew away into the distance. "What is your name?" The middle-aged man looked at Wang Lin and asked. "My name is Qingmu," Wang Lin said respectfully. "This mountain cave belongs to you. 1 medium-grade spirit stone for 1 year's use." The man waved his right hand, and a black token was caught by Wang Lin. Wang Lin showed a pained expression, gritted his teeth and gave 2 medium-grade spirit stones to the other party. After receiving the spirit stones, the middle-aged man ignored Wang Lin and turned to go back to his room. Wang Lin was about to leave when the man suddenly said, "What did you give that red-haired fellow?" "I gave him a flying sword," Wang Lin honestly replied. "No wonder he's so enthusiastic. Qingmu, you have foundation establishment cultivation, but you shouldn't be arrogant. There aren't many foundation establishment disciples in the outer sect, but there are certainly not a few either. June is the day of our soul refining sect's competition. You should cultivate diligently. If you have the ability, you might be able to enter the inner sect and become a core disciple." The man shook his head and went into the room. At that moment, Liumi was on a cliff 50 miles outside the soul refining sect. In her hand, she held a jade slip. This was sent by the vermilion bird ancestor last month. Using it, although it couldn't locate Zhang Niu, it would trigger a reaction if he was within 100 miles. At this moment, the jade slip was flashing with a green light. "Is it at the soul refining sect?" Liumi murmured softly. To the east of the vermilion bird star, a streak of green light, as fast as a shooting star, tore through the wind. It was an old man, but this wasn't his physical body. It was his soul leaving his body. He was in an extremely battered state, with 3 fist marks on his soul, from which dazzling light emanated, spreading throughout the heavens and earth. This old man was the ancestor of the giant demon clan. That day, he had been injured by Sun Hai's demonic child, forcing him to let his soul leave his body and flee with his storage bag. Even Wang Lin didn't have the heart to pursue him. But that demonic child was extremely strange. He didn't say a word the whole way, pursuing with all his might. For the past few months, they had practically circled the Vermilion Bird Star. The patriarch of the giant demon clan was struck by several punches from that demon child. These punches, though small, directly damaged his primordial spirit. If he hadn't cultivated for so long and possessed some of the giant demon clan's secret techniques, he would have likely escaped this calamity. He used up all his innate divine abilities, finally having to lure the demon child to the Arctic, utilizing the natural restrictions created by the Vermilion Bird Star to escape. Now his body weakened, he dared not stop and fled back to the giant demon clan at the fastest speed. As for the life and death of Chihu, he had long since ceased to care. After returning to the giant demon clan, he directly possessed the body of a clan member and began his seclusion. As for Wang Lin, he dared not search for him now. The Vermilion Bird Kingdom had begun investigating the matter, and he reluctantly gave up. Although he didn't capture Wang Lin this time, he did obtain a peculiar flying sword. At this moment, the ancestor of the giant demon clan, who was in seclusion, suddenly opened his eyes, a sinister glint in them. This possessed body needed some time to become the official body. The length of this time depended on the difference in cultivation between the possessed person and the possessor. The ancestor's eyes flashed, and he potted his storage bag. Instantly, a flying sword flew out, hovering in front of him. The ancestor's right hand touched the immortal sword, and immediately a mournful cry, accompanied by pleas for mercy, emanated from within. "Sword spirit, appear," the ancestor whispered. Immediately, a cloud of black smoke emanated from the immortal sword, transforming into Sugoli. Upon seeing the ancestor of the giant demon clan, he loudly begged for his life. "Master, spare my life, don't kill me. I was also forced by the Wang family back then, and my hatred for him is the same as yours, deeply ingrained in my bones." The giant clan ancestor was stunned after hearing Sugoli's words, then burst into laughter, saying, "This sword spirit is quite something. The other sword spirits are all incredibly steadfast and loyal." Sugoli immediately showed a flattering expression, saying, "Su family." The ancestor glared at him. Sugoli immediately rubbed his hands carefully and said, "How can they compare to this servant? This is what you call a wise man adapting to circumstances." The giant clan ancestor looked at Sugoli, pointed a finger. A green light flashed on Sugoli's body. He immediately cried out miserably, hastily begging for forgiveness, and even more loudly cursing Wang Lin. The ancestor snorted softly, withdrew his hand seal, and shouted, "From now on, you are my sword spirit. Since you have voluntarily submitted, I will not seal you. Besides, now that you are in my hands, you cannot escape." In fact, the beam of light was a kind of seal, but it only caused pain on Sugoli's body, showing no signs of being sealed. The old man was slightly surprised, but showed no expression, waiting until his physical body had completely merged before carefully studying it. Sugoli's face immediately showed gratitude, his right hand patting his chest, saying with unwavering loyalty, "Grandpa, rest assured. I, Sugoli, am always loyal and unwavering. Wang Lin treated me badly, that's why I betrayed him. But you, Grandpa, have been so kind to me. I will never betray you. If I break this oath, may I, Sugoli, be pierced by 10,000 demons." Seeing the giant demon clan's ancestor's expression soften, Sugoli breathed a sigh of relief, thinking to himself, "Luckily, Grandpa Su is smart. HMPH. I don't know when that killer will come to rescue me, so I can't be so arrogant. I'll obey first, and then I'll settle the score with you later. I, Sugoli, am always loyal and unwavering. That killer has been good to me for many years. How could I betray him?" The eyes of the giant demon clan's ancestor flashed. He originally intended to destroy this sword spirit and return it to its original form. But if it were a primordial sword spirit, it obviously wouldn't be able to fully utilize its power when controlling the immortal sword. Moreover, this sword spirit was very special. Unexpectedly, it knew how to beg for forgiveness and possessed sentience. Therefore, he was even more unwilling to discard it. It's important to know that sword spirits with sentience are extremely rare and have miraculous effects in battle. He didn't know that Sugoli wasn't originally a sword spirit with developed sentience, but rather a demon himself. Even the oath of 10,000 demons piercing his heart wasn't a punishment for him. On the contrary, it vaguely contained a longing for that great nourishment. The giant demon clan's old man pondered for a moment, then brought Sugoli back to the flying sword, carefully examining it. The more he looked, the more horrified he became. This sword is definitely not an ordinary item. I just don't know what material it was forged from. His eyes flashed, and he carefully put the flying sword into his storage bag. Meanwhile, Wang Lin, holding the soul refining sex token, flew up the mountain and, after finding the cave, flew inside. The cave wasn't really large, not much different from the cave he lived in at the Hanyu sect years ago. Inside, besides a stone bed, there wasn't even a table. But the spiritual energy here was extremely abundant, several times more concentrated than the outside world. Even slightly better than the 3 top-grade spirit stones that were almost unusable at the Fire Cloud camp. After all, the spiritual energy emitted by top-grade spirit stones, although easily absorbed, lacked a certain vitality, especially when they were about to become unusable, and couldn't compare to the spiritual energy of a spiritual mountain with a concentrated spiritual vein. Wang Lin sat cross-legged on the stone bed, meditating. 3 days later, Wang Lin opened his eyes and shook his head slightly. He felt the speed was still too slow. After a moment of contemplation, Wang Lin patted his storage bag, took out 3 top-grade spirit stones, placed them around the cave, and with his hands forming a hand seal, continuously cast several restrictions on the 4 walls and the cave entrance. Then he closed his eyes and meditated again. As a result, the spiritual energy in the cave immediately became much denser. After hitting the walls, the restrictions on the walls immediately flashed with purple light, repelling the spiritual energy and preventing it from dissipating. This cave had now become a sealed box, preventing the spiritual energy from escaping. The spiritual energy increased more and more, and Wang Lin's absorption became the only way for it to escape. Under his breathing, the dense spiritual energy was frantically absorbed by him. Wang Lin's face flushed slightly as he quietly meditated. The spiritual power within his body slowly grew, but it was still far from enough to break through the tea-infused realm and seal. In fact, this realm and seal actively devoured Wang Lin's spiritual power as his cultivation level increased, making themselves even more solid. Time slowly passed, and Wang Lin had been an outer disciple of the soul refining sect for a month. One day, Wang Lin opened his eyes, his gaze much brighter than before. He had used all his abilities, frantically absorbing spiritual power for a month. 2 of the 3 top-grade spirit stones had to be discarded, and the remaining one was almost unusable. Despite such a waste, the results in a month were immense. His early foundation establishment cultivation had led to the peak of the mid-foundation establishment stage, only a little short of entering the late foundation establishment stage. Still too slow, it took a lot of top-grade spirit stones to barely reach this level. But now, I don't even have 15 top-grade spirit stones left in my storage bag. Clearly, it's not enough. Immediately, he heard several cracking sounds, and the stone bed he was sitting on was now covered with cracks. Even the walls on all 4 sides had crumbled, revealing a dense network of tiny cracks. Wang Lin was stunned, and after a moment of contemplation, he understood everything. This stone chamber, due to the excessively concentrated spiritual energy over the past month, could not withstand this sudden increase in spiritual energy, and cracks had finally appeared. If this continued for longer, the cracks would likely become even larger. This stone chamber is unusable. I must find a new one. Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and he formed hand seals, pressing down on both sides. Immediately, the cracks moved strangely, shrinking and slowly returning to their original state. Even the stone bed, with a single press from Wang Lin, was restored to its original condition. However, Wang Lin knew this was just the surface. If the spiritual power in this place increased again, cracks could appear. But as long as he didn't use top-grade spirit stones, he didn't have to worry about cracks appearing and arousing suspicion. Wang Lin pondered for a moment, then stood up and opened the cave entrance to go outside. It was sunset. The sun in the distance was setting, casting a fiery red light. It was the last day of the year. Wang Lin looked at the sunset in the distance. The late winter sun didn't carry much warmth, and when it shone down, he felt a chill. He thought for a moment, remembering that today was indeed New Year's Eve. After today would be the new year. He wondered how Zichu was doing now, whether she was bullying Zibai. Thinking of this, a smile appeared on Wang Lin's lips. He looked at the sunset and took a deep breath. After the calamity, vitality is even stronger. Wang Lin murmured. Having been at the height of his power, suddenly struck down to the level of a mortal, it was only thanks to his unwavering resolve that he had persevered until now. Only today did he have time to reflect on this. Recalling everything that happened after losing his spiritual power, a complex emotion welled up in Wang Lin's heart. Today is the end of the year, representing an ending. But tomorrow is the beginning of the new year, representing a fresh start. Anything is possible. It's over, Wang Lin said softly. At this moment, in the twilight, a striking female figure gradually flew towards him from afar. This person looked somewhat familiar. Wang Lin's gaze froze. He concentrated his attention on observing. The female figure in the twilight continued to fly, circling within the soul-refining sect. This person looked somewhat familiar. Wang Lin glanced at the figure, pondered for a moment, but still couldn't remember where he had met her. His body flashed, and he flew down from the mountain, quickly reaching the middle of the mountain. The middle-aged man was sitting cross-legged on the ground, meditating. When Wang Lin landed, he opened his eyes, glanced at him, and his gaze immediately froze, staring intently at Wang Lin. "Oh, you've reached the mid-stage foundation establishment." A look of shock appeared on the man's face. Wang Lin sighed inwardly. After his primordial spirit shattered, he couldn't conceal his cultivation, and this core formation cultivator had finally noticed something unusual. "I must quickly recover my primordial spirit, otherwise I'll definitely be in trouble," Wang Lin muttered to himself, his expression still respectful as he said. This disciple was on the verge of a breakthrough. Now, after meditating and absorbing spiritual energy here, I've fortunately succeeded in breaking through and reached the mid-stage foundation establishment. The middle-aged man showed no expression, but inwardly he began to calculate. The other party's words weren't suspicious, but this person's cultivation speed was indeed a bit too fast. He looked deeply at Wang Lin, memorizing his face, and said, "What brings you here?" Wang Lin clasped his hands and said, "I wish to exchange for a cave dwelling with more abundant spiritual energy." The middle-aged man frowned and said, "The worst thing for cultivators is to increase their cultivation too quickly. Your cultivation is unstable. You'll never achieve the golden core stage in this lifetime." Wang Lin remained silent for a moment, then said, "I already have a plan in mind. I hope Senior will grant my request." The middle-aged man glanced at Wang Lin and said, "If you want it that way, I won't interfere. But to exchange the cave dwelling, you must pay an additional mid-grade spirit stone." Wang Lin gave a wry smile and handed over a mid-grade spirit stone. The middle-aged man accepted the stone and said, "Give me your token." Wang Lin handed over the token. After retrieving his token, the middle-aged man took another token from his storage bag and said, "The smaller the room number, the more spiritual power there is." He then tossed the token to Wang Lin. Upon receiving it, Wang Lin saw the number 803 written on it. He quickly thanked him and turned to leave. Only after he was gone did the middle-aged man's eyes flash, muttering, "Strange." His body flicked, transforming into a rainbow and rushing towards a cave dwelling. In an instant, he arrived outside the cave. He entered, carefully observing for a long time, but still found nothing unusual, which made him suspicious. Could it be that I'm being overly suspicious? Is this person truly about to break through, which is why his cultivation speed is so fast? The middle-aged man pondered for a moment before leaving the cave dwelling, determined to observe this person named Qingmu more closely. Wang Lin, holding the token, went to cave dwelling number 803 on the mountain. This cave was about the same size as the old one, except there was a small formation on the ground. The formation looked incredibly complex, even giving the impression of multiple overlapping formations. Upon entering the cave, Wang Lin immediately noticed the formation. After studying it for a while, his eyes lit up. This formation was simply a basic spirit gathering formation. The numerous external structures were actually to prevent others from learning it secretly. The main function of the spirit gathering formation is to concentrate the spiritual power from all directions, causing the spiritual power within a certain range to increase. However, the spirit gathering formation must be placed on the spiritual eye to be effective, otherwise, its effect is minimal. The spiritual eye is to the spiritual meridians what acupuncture points are to the human body. Even a slight movement affects the entire body. This place is definitely not a spiritual eye, but merely a pseudo-spiritual eye. Wang Lin observed for a moment and immediately recognized the problem. Although he was injured by the intent and seal, and his cultivation was gone, he was still a nascent soul cultivator. With his hundreds of years of experience, Wang Lin understood this formation at a glance. It's worth noting that even few core formation cultivators could detect anything here. Only nascent soul cultivators could discern some traces, and even then, understanding them was extremely difficult. Especially since this formation has many superfluous elements arranged to create a smokescreen. It's even more difficult to understand. After all, the soul refining sect could turn this entire mountain into a cave dwelling for its disciples. So they must have secretly manipulated the formation to prevent outsiders from understanding it. However, even the founder of the soul refining sect couldn't have imagined that a nascent soul stage cultivator would be practicing in the outer disciples' cave dwelling. Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and he swept his right hand across the formation. Immediately, a more complex formation appeared within the formation's eye. So this is a formation within a formation, creating the effect of a pseudo-spiritual eye, Wang Lin thought to himself after observing for a moment. He pondered for a while, restored the formation to its original state, sat down cross-legged, and placed a protective seal on the four walls and the cave entrance. Then he took out 3 top-grade spirit stones and began to cultivate. The spiritual energy here was several times denser than in the previous cave dwelling. Anyway, there's a spirit gathering formation here, which directly directs a spiritual vein from the underground area to this place through a pseudo-spiritual eye. Therefore, the spiritual energy here is obviously very concentrated. With the addition of 3 top-grade spirit stones, the spiritual energy here has reached an astonishing level. Even nascent soul cultivators would rush to seize it if they saw it. Cultivating here would greatly increase their speed. Wang Lin was immersed in breathing exercises, forgetting the time. His body was now enveloped in a thick layer of spiritual energy mist. The spiritual energy was so concentrated that if he didn't move, it would condense into a layer of pale blue mist. At this moment, the ground of the cave was filled with blue light, incredibly beautiful. The mist formed by spiritual energy on Wang Lin's body increased, covering his entire body, like wearing a blue light cloak. However, the scars on his face were now dense, looking extremely ferocious and terrifying. Within Wang Lin's body, spiritual energy slowly accumulated and condensed. At the same time, the tea-infused realm and the seals under the influence of this spiritual energy became even more solid, several times stronger than at the beginning. Time flew by, and Wang Lin had been in seclusion for 2 months. During these 2 months, Wang Lin's body remained completely still. He seemed to be using all his time to improve his cultivation. However, the further he progressed, the more spiritual power he needed, and the slower his progress became. In 2 months, he had only reached the late stage of foundation establishment, still a considerable distance from the great perfection of foundation establishment. All 3 top-grade spirit stones were also damaged. Wang Lin was heartbroken. He didn't want to use this method of cultivating using top-grade spirit stones in combination with spiritual power much anymore. One day, Wang Lin opened his eyes, looked at the formation on the ground, and pondered for a moment. He clapped his right hand down, and the formation's eye immediately appeared. Wang Lin's eyes flashed as he stared intently at the small formation within the formation's eye, carefully studying it. Formations are essentially a manifestation of restrictions. Wang Lin's study of restrictions had reached a level of mastery. Now, careful study revealed the key point. He formed hand seals, channeling the spiritual power within his body. His hands rapidly transformed before his body, forming a series of restrictions. Gradually, sweat beaded on Wang Lin's forehead. His hands moved faster and faster, eventually forming a series of afterimages. Almost every time a restriction was cast, another afterimage appeared, and the number of afterimages increased. Wang Lin's forehead was drenched in sweat, his clothes soaked. This after-image restriction was a unique method created by Wang Lin, very different from ordinary restrictions. With Wang Lin's current cultivation level, casting a single restriction was no problem at all, but casting after-image restrictions was somewhat difficult. Back then, when he was at the ancient god's place, even with his core formation stage cultivation, he could only create a few afterimages, let alone now. At this moment, even using his full cultivation to create a single afterimage was extremely difficult. Wang Lin's hands moved faster and faster, and finally, all the afterimages suddenly merged into one. Wang Lin let out a low shout and pointed towards the formation. Immediately, the afterimage of the Forbidden's formation descended in an instant. The small formation inside immediately trembled. A powerful force surged from within, suddenly surging outwards. Wang Lin's body flicked, avoiding this force, his eyes still fixed on the formation. He saw that after the force disappeared, the formation ceased to function, no longer emitting any spiritual power. Wang Lin stepped forward and lightly touched it with his right hand, and immediately a series of cracking sounds rang out. The formation flickered and slowly disappeared, revealing a large, fist-sized spiritual stone. This spiritual stone was red, with swirling mist within. Wang Lin recognized the spirit stone at a glance. It was called Kungsing Rock, naturally capable of absorbing spiritual power, but also containing it. Without a word, Wang Lin placed his hand on the red spirit stone and began to absorb it. Boom! A vast amount of spiritual power surged from the stone at an unimaginable speed, rushing into his body through his arm. Under this intense wave of spiritual power, Wang Lin immediately felt his pores open wide. A dark aura suddenly emanated from his pores. The scar on his face also faded, though it hadn't completely disappeared. It was noticeably less noticeable. Wang Lin was overjoyed. He hadn't expected that directly absorbing the pseudo-spiritual eye would be so effective. However, this effect was only truly effective the first time. The second time would lose its power, unless he could find an even more powerful spiritual eye. Wang Lin took a deep breath, clearing his mind of distractions, and focused on absorbing the spiritual power. Gradually, the spiritual power within the spirit stone slowed down, no longer as strong as before. Wang Lin also slowly immersed himself in cultivation. In the Snow Domain Kingdom, within the Isan Snow Divine Palace, Li Yuanfeng sat cross-legged. 5 large blocks of ice surrounded him. These blocks of ice all shimmered with 5-colored light, and faint bursts of immortal power slowly emanated from them for him to absorb. Deep within these 5 blocks of ice was a small immortal jade, about the size of a thumb. The immortal jade, through the formation within the ice, underwent a strange transformation. At this moment, although Li Yuanfeng's appearance was not unusual, his eyes were slightly weary, and his face was pale and bloodless. After a long time, he opened his eyes, revealing a deep-seated fear. That lightning is incredibly powerful. It even contains immortal power. With my cultivation level, I continuously fled, weakening its power by 50%. Yet I was still injured when struck. That day, Li Yuanfeng took advantage of the battle between Sun Tai and the Giant Demon Clan's ancestor to try and kill Wang Lin, but unfortunately, Sun Tai unleashed a bolt of immortal lightning to pursue him, and he barely escaped. After all, he was only able to barely increase his cultivation to the early stage of the nascent soul realm with the help of the Vermilion Bird Kingdom, using secret techniques, and he can never break through again in his lifetime. Therefore, compared to cultivators who break through to the nascent soul realm on their own, he is far weaker. Li Yuanfeng's divine consciousness is only at the late stage of the great perfection of the transformation god realm, not the nascent soul realm. Such low divine consciousness obviously cannot withstand a single bolt of immortal lightning from Sun Tai. I wonder if Zheng Niu is dead yet. But even if he's not dead, my T-infused realm won't be so easily broken, Li Yuanfeng sneered, his eyes flashing. That Junior Hong Deep has declared she's going into seclusion for 100 years, and after coming out, she wants to become a nascent soul cultivator. My lifespan is almost over, so it's no longer important. However, why does that Giant Demon Clan ancestor want Zhang Niu's corpse so much? This is rather unusual. Could there be something I don't know? Li Yuanfeng pondered for a moment, but couldn't find the reason. In the Pilu Kingdom, on the mountain reserved for outer disciples to cultivate, Wang Lin opened his eyes wide. Late foundation establishment, great perfection. Wang Lin's eyes shone brightly. He took a deep breath, his body trembling. The misty spiritual energy surrounding his body suddenly moved, instantly entering his body and then disappearing. Even the remaining misty spiritual energy on the ground and surrounding walls dissipated, turning into streams of light blue energy, which Wang Lin absorbed. At this moment, the scars on Wang Lin's face had faded slightly, but he still looked very fierce. The pseudo-spiritual I separated from the spiritual vein cannot satisfy my requirements. I need to find a place with a denser spiritual energy. Finding a place with a genuine spiritual eye should be sufficient. Wang Lin's eyes flashed as he struck the formation on the ground, restoring it to its original state and concealing the spiritual eye. Then he stood up and left the cave. Outside, the sunlight was bright, and everything was filled with the spirit of spring. Green stretched across the mountains, bringing a fresh feeling. The mountain wind blew, still slightly chilly, but no longer icy cold. The chill carried a hint of warmth. Taking a deep breath, Wang Lin walked forward. At this moment, his expression suddenly changed as he looked in one direction. The mountain where Wang Lin resided had countless caves. Since his seclusion, except for that middle-aged man, he hadn't encountered anyone else. At that moment, 10 yards outside the cave, a figure emerged. This person wore a blue robe with a delicate white silk outer garment. The spring breeze blew, giving the impression of a celestial maiden descending to earth. Her lustrous black hair cascaded down her shoulders, fluttering in the wind, appearing both gentle and beautiful, with an ethereal, otherworldly air. The woman seemed to notice someone nearby, tilting her head to look in this direction, a hint of an indescribable meaning in her eyes. After seeing Wang Lin, she smiled as a greeting, then looked back into the distance. Wang Lin withdrew his gaze. He recognized the woman at first glance as the one he had seen at sunset before his seclusion. This woman looks somewhat familiar, but I can't be sure. I've never met her before in my life. Wang Lin raised his eyebrows. Back then, Liu Mi of the Zhuan Dao sect was a clone created by the heavenly illusion technique, obviously different from her original form. Moreover, 500 years had passed, and her appearance was quite different from anyone Wang Lin had met before. Wang Lin pondered for a moment, no longer paying attention to this woman. Although her appearance was far superior to Hong Yi's, she was still far from matching Li Muan, and couldn't quite catch Wang Lin's eye. His body flashed, and he flew down from the mountain, his gaze lingering on the peak. Finally, he reached a cave dwelling below, his eyes settling on it. This cave wasn't particularly unusual, nor was it the lowest point, but from a distance, the number 7 was written on it. It must be here. Wang Lin descended, assessing the cave several times. He had previously cultivated the earth-absorbing technique and used the classification of pseudo-spiritual eyes to determine the location of the true spiritual eye. This cave, number 743, was close to the true spiritual eye. There's someone inside. Wang Lin noticed the stone blocking the cave entrance had been lowered, pondered for a moment, and then had an idea. He was about to return to the cave when suddenly a middle-aged man emerged from a room on the mountain. His eyes gleamed, staring intently at Wang Lin. In fact, he had noticed Wang Lin the moment he appeared. The middle-aged man's expression showed no joy or anger. He spoke in a low voice. A flash of killing intent flickered in Wang Lin's eyes, and his body instantly moved 10 meters away from the middle-aged man. Late Foundation establishment, great perfection. The middle-aged man's pupils narrowed, his heart filled with dread. His intuition told him that this man named Xingmu was very strange. Only a few months had passed, yet his cultivation had unexpectedly advanced astonishingly. When he first arrived, he was only in the early Foundation establishment stage. After meeting him again, he had become in the middle Foundation establishment stage. Now, upon meeting him again, he had unexpectedly reached the late Foundation establishment, great perfection stage. The middle-aged man pursed his lips. His heart pounded, and without hesitation, he imagined that the next time they met, this man might have reached the same cultivation level as himself, the early golden core stage. If this Qingmu doesn't possess some heaven-defying magic treasure, then his cultivation technique must be extremely profound. The middle-aged man took a deep breath, stared at Wang Lin, and smiled, saying, "Qingmu, I'm afraid the next time we meet, I'll have to call you a fellow Taoist." Wang Lin glanced at him and calmly said, "Not at all. A hint of displeasure flashed in the middle-aged man's eyes, but it quickly disappeared. Then he said, Qingmu, if you can form a golden core here, your chances of becoming an inner disciple at the upcoming assembly in a few months will greatly increase. Remember to come back and visit me often then. Wang Lin smiled and said, that's naturally the case. However, my current cave dwelling doesn't have enough spiritual power. I wonder if I can change to another one? The middle-aged man was taken aback and said with some difficulty, rooms numbered from 700 onwards require the approval of an elder. But if you really want to change, I can make the decision and help you invite an elder. Wang Lin shook his head and said, there's no need for such trouble. I only need the cave dwelling numbered 743. The middle-aged man's eyes widened in surprise. He glanced towards cave number 743, then chuckled, saying, this is easy to handle. However, while the spiritual energy in that cave is good, it's not the best. No problem, Wang Lin said with a smile. Then he waved his hand, producing 3 medium-grade spirit stones. I've troubled you so many times, Senior. This time, I'd like to offer you one of these spirit stones as a token of my sincerity. After accepting them, the middle-aged man inwardly sneered. He thought to himself, it's not convenient now. Tonight, even if you offer more spirit stones, I'll still have to find out why your cultivation speed is so fast. He thought this to himself, but outwardly he maintained a cheerful expression. He took out a jade slip from his storage bag and flicked it lightly. A beam of spiritual light shot out, flashing under the middle-aged man's touch, and flew into cave number 743. After a while, a man in black robes flew out of the cave. His face was fleshy, looking more like a butcher than a cultivator. He landed a few meters away from the middle-aged man, his eyes wide, and clasped his hands together, saying, Senior, what's the matter? Take this token. I'll exchange it for another cave dwelling, the middle-aged man said. Exchange cave dwellings? No way. I'm perfectly fine here. Why should I change? The man snorted, his eyes glancing at Wang Lin standing beside him, and he sneered. You want to exchange? Give me a mid-grade spirit stone, or don't even dream of it. Without even glancing at the middle-aged man, he flashed his body and flew back to cave dwelling number 743. HMPH. The middle-aged man watched the burly man's retreating figure, deciding that after dealing with Qingmu, he would teach this guy a lesson. Qingmu, you go back first. Tomorrow I'll get you another room. The middle-aged man's voice held a hint of determination, clearly unwilling to give up. After speaking to Wang Lin, he waved his sleeve and returned to his room. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. His body flashed, and he flew back to his cave dwelling. He inwardly sneered. If this middle-aged man didn't come seeking trouble, then so be it, proving that this man's life wasn't over yet. But if he harbored greedy thoughts and came tonight, he would only find death. Late at night, the middle-aged man emerged from his room, his eyes flashing as he looked towards Wang Lin's cave dwelling, a greedy glint in them. He had been stuck at the early stage of the core formation realm for a long time. It was precisely because of this that his inner disciple status was revoked, and he was relegated to the role of overseer for outer disciples. Wang Lin's sudden surge in cultivation had given him a glimmer of hope. The life and death of outer disciples are of no concern to the sect. Killing them is no big deal. This person is just a rogue cultivator. No one will bother searching for him. Qingmu, don't blame me, only blame yourself for cultivating too quickly. If I waited until you reached the core formation stage, it would be troublesome for me to take action. But now, killing you is as easy as pie. The middle-aged man's body soared into the air, heading towards Wang Lin's cave dwelling, arriving outside in an instant. The surroundings were completely silent. The middle-aged man was stunned upon arrival. Normally, in a cave dwelling, as soon as a cultivator entered, they would lower the stone blocking the door and go into seclusion. But this cave dwelling was still half open, not completely closed. When he saw the door open, the middle-aged man's eyes flashed. However, this man was highly skilled and secretive. Although he found it strange, he didn't take the opponent, who was only at the late foundation establishment stage, seriously. His body flashed, and he slipped inside. The moment he entered the cave, he saw Wang Lin sitting cross-legged on the stone bed, his gaze calm as he looked at him. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed, and without a word, he made a hand gesture forward. Immediately, a silent beam of green light appeared, flashing towards Wang Lin. He had no intention of killing him, but rather planned to capture him for questioning before killing him. Wang Lin's eyes showed a mocking expression as he potted his storage bag. The Forbidden's banner instantly appeared in his hand. He waved it, and a roaring Forbidden's artifact shot out like lightning, striking the green light in an instant. The green light couldn't resist at all and shattered. "You want to die?" The middle-aged man sneered, spitting out a 3-inch-long flying sword, aiming it at the Forbidden's artifact. He thought this junior in the late Foundation establishment stage couldn't possibly withstand the power of this flying sword, which had been refined by a golden core. But his smile instantly froze. Hit by the Forbidden's artifact, the flying sword only made a few cracking sounds before shattering into pieces. "I've been cultivating since before you were born," Wang Lin said, shaking his head on the stone bed. The man's face turned pale, and he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Without a word, he turned and fled. But the Forbidden's artifact flashed beside him, wrapping tightly around him and pulling him back. The middle-aged man opened his mouth to speak, but Wang Lin pointed from a distance. A miserable groan was heard, and the middle-aged man's face swelled up, spitting out a mouthful of blood mixed with several teeth. "I am from the soul refining sect." The man had suffered a bitter defeat, his heart filled with fear. But before he could finish speaking, Wang Lin's right hand swung up again. The man let out a miserable groan, a look of madness flashing in his eyes. Since he began cultivating, he had never suffered such humiliation. "I'll fight you to the death, explode." The man whispered, his golden core rapidly rotating, cracks appearing. His eyes turned bloodshot, staring intently at Wang Lin. "Want to self-destruct your golden core? Too bad you can't." Wang Lin swung the Forbidden's banner in his hand. Immediately, the Forbidden's formation flashed with black light. 3 streams of Forbidden's energy roared out, instantly penetrating the man's body, surrounding his self-destructing golden core, and, to his utter terror, pulling it out. Wang Lin took the golden core, glanced at it, and swallowed it. The man's body trembled, spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood, then slumped down. He screamed inwardly, "He's not in the Foundation establishment stage." He's absolutely not in the Foundation establishment stage. Who are you? The spiritual power in the man's body dissipated along with his golden core. He gritted his teeth, his voice trembling. "You don't deserve to know." Wang Lin's body flashed, and he appeared before him, touching his forehead. His eyes widened, slowly losing their vitality, and he fell to the ground. Wang Lin shook his head. He hadn't intended to kill him at this moment, but the other party had deliberately sought death. Wang Lin patted the man's body, and instantly his body shattered, even his blood turned to dust and dissipated in the wind. Wang Lin's body flashed, flying out of the cave and heading straight to cave number 743. Outside this cave, Wang Lin waved his right hand, and a restriction instantly flew out, striking the cave entrance. Then his body transformed into a white light and leapt into the cliff. He was seen to have vanished the moment his body touched a rock wall, reappearing inside cave number 743. The ability to use such a teleportation ability was thanks to that Forbidden's technique. "Who is it?" A terrified scream echoed from within the cave. The butcher-like man, sitting cross-legged on the stone bed, showed disbelief on his face. But upon recognizing Wang Lin, he immediately became enraged. However, in an instant, it was as if cold water had been poured over him. Regaining his composure, he realized he hadn't known Wang Lin had used a Forbidden's technique to get here. All he could think of was teleportation. Senior, his voice trembled, but before he could finish, Wang Lin's body moved closer to him. With a single touch, the man instantly fell to the ground, unconscious. Pushing the man aside, Wang Lin paid no further attention to him, his gaze fixed on the right wall. In an instant, Wang Lin's eyes flashed. He potted his storage bag with his right hand, and a flying sword shot out. Under Wang Lin's control, it peeled away the rock wall. A series of shattering sounds echoed. Soon, a passage wide enough for one person appeared on the wall. Wang Lin's body flexed, following the flying sword into the cave. The flying sword cleared the way, and Wang Lin followed behind. After a while, a passage about 30 feet long was formed. At the end of this passage, a glimmer of starlight flickered. "The spiritual vein is here." Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and a look of joy appeared on his face. He pointed his right hand at the flying sword, and immediately the sword let out a resounding cry, as if it had a mind of its own. It quickly flew back from behind him, instantly returning to cave number 743 and stabbing into the side of the burly man. In an instant, the flying sword shattered into many pieces, falling all around the burly man's body, forming a protective barrier around him. Wang Lin pressed a button on the wall at the end of the passage, and the wall instantly moved strangely. Very quickly, he disappeared behind the passage. Now, even standing inside cave number 743, no trace could be found. Wang Lin formed a hand seal, conjuring a restriction spell, which landed on the spirit stone vein. Following the restriction spell, his body sank down and disappeared into the spirit stone vein. When he reappeared, he was deep within the spirit stone vein. At this moment, his position was at the foot of the mountain. Around him were densely packed spirit stone veins. A vast amount of spiritual power surged wildly. This spiritual power could not be directly absorbed by cultivators. It contained many impurities and required some simple transformation methods to be absorbed. However, that was only for low-level cultivators. For Wang Lin, it was completely insignificant. The spiritual energy here was incredibly dense, forming a kind of spiritual power similar to the divine abilities unleashed by high-level cultivators. However, this wasn't a divine ability but a natural power. Its power clearly incomparable to anything a cultivator could unleash. Wang Lin, standing at the forefront, was immediately enveloped by this oppressive force. The sheer power of this pressure felt like a mountain pressing down on him. However, this mountain wasn't pressing down from above, but from all directions, pressing down on every inch of his body. Crackling sounds emanated from within him. Wang Lin wasn't worried. Instead, he was delighted. This was exactly what he wanted. Under this pressure, he immediately felt his shattered primordial spirit within his body begin to slowly recover. I'll risk it. Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and 3 top-grade spirit stones flew out of his storage bag, landing around him. Wang Lin took a deep breath, let out a soft shout, and instantly the 3 supreme-grade spirit stones shattered with a resounding crash. The frenzied spiritual power surged to its limit, deeply impacting his body and merging with his spiritual might. The spiritual might that Wang Lin had to endure suddenly increased several times. Blood flowed from Wang Lin's 7 orifices, but his eyes showed ecstatic joy. Just a little more. Wang Lin gritted his teeth, and instantly 2 more supreme-grade spirit stones flew out from his storage bag, shattering with 2 loud bangs, like pouring water into boiling oil, causing the spiritual veins of the entire mountain to boil. His spiritual might instantly surged wildly. Under this immense pressure, the fragments of his primordial spirit within his body gradually retracted, like the shards of a mirror, restoring itself piece by piece. At the same time, an enormous amount of spiritual power surged into Wang Lin's body. Even the tea-infused realm and seals could no longer stop it, and with a bang, it was pierced through. Immediately, Wang Lin's cultivation recovered at an extremely rapid pace. Late foundation establishment stage, great perfection. Golden core formation. Early golden core stage, breakthrough. Middle stage, breakthrough. Late stage, breakthrough. Early nascent soul stage, breakthrough. The spiritual veins of the entire mountain, visible to the naked eye, were rapidly dimming. The spiritual veins, which had been sparkling with light, instantly turned gray and spread wildly. In just 10 breaths, in that short amount of time, all the lush green trees on the mountain withered in an instant. The spiritual veins of the entire mountain dimmed completely in just 10 breaths, disappearing entirely, no longer emitting any spiritual power, becoming a useless vein. At this moment, thousands of outer disciples sitting in the mountain suddenly opened their eyes wide. They noticed that the spiritual power in the stone chamber had suddenly disappeared. While they were still astonished, a powerful suction force suddenly emanated from the ground, causing the spiritual power in their bodies to frantically escape. In their panic, these outer disciples hastily used various magical artifacts, quickly rushing out of the cave, not daring to hesitate for a second. Inside the spiritual vein, Wang Lin opened his eyes wide. His body flashed, using teleportation to disappear, and when he reappeared, he was standing outside the mountain. A large number of cultivators were surrounding him. At this moment, these people were all discussing, their faces showing expressions of horror. Wang Lin listened to everything, all of its speculation about this strange event. As for the burly man, Wang Lin's thoughts stirred, and he immediately removed the restrictions on him. He flew out of the cave, glanced at Wang Lin, and instantly became terrified. Wang Lin merely glanced coldly at him, and immediately he showed a respectful expression, not daring to reveal anything. Just then, a gaze fell upon him. Wang Lin casually looked back and recognized a stunningly beautiful woman standing in the distance, nodding and smiling kindly at him. Wang Lin raised his eyebrows, not bothering to pay attention to her, coldly glancing at her before withdrawing his gaze. Mid-stage nascent soul peak, I didn't expect this action to restore my cultivation to this level. But more importantly, my primordial spirit has been partially recovered, although not completely, but I can now use the intent. Wang Lin took a deep breath, his eyes calm. For him, the experience of nearly losing his life and then recovering from death was truly worthwhile. The dramatic events on the mountain attracted the attention of the inner sect of the soul refining sect. Almost immediately, 3 people from the inner sect of the soul refining sect flew out. The man in the middle, his hair graying, spoke with a commanding tone, not anger but authority. "Shut your mouths." The surroundings immediately fell silent. "Where is Liu Fulan?" the old man shouted. After a long silence, he raised his eyebrows and, along with the other 2, flew into the mountain. Liu Fulan was the middle-aged man who had just shown greed. As for the 3 old men, they were inner disciples of the soul refining sect, and also elder stewards of the soul refining sect. Wang Lin's eyes flickered. Of these 3, besides the old man who was in the early nascent soul stage, the other 2 were in the late nascent soul stage. The 3 flew into the mountain, and a few minutes later, the old man emerged with a grim expression. His eyes showed a hint of doubt, but even more so, fear. "You elder disciples, no one is allowed to leave." The old man's eyes flashed as he shouted, then patted his storage bag, and a jade slip immediately flew out. The jade slip, upon appearing, instantly flew into the inner sect of the soul refining sect and vanished. Most of the outer disciples looked panicked, but some remained unconcerned, sitting cross-legged. Wang Lin was one of them. He sat down under the shade of a large tree and began to cultivate. After releasing the jade slip, the old man's eyes gleamed as he glanced at the outer disciples. He and 2 fellow disciples had just entered the mountain, and after examining it, he was instantly horrified. The mountain's spiritual veins had been completely destroyed. Especially after venturing deep into the spiritual veins, the spirit stone shattered upon mere touch. This was clearly caused by the instantaneous absorption of spiritual power. The situation was too bizarre. Since the founding of the soul refining sect, nothing like this had ever happened. His gaze swept around a few times, but didn't settle on Wang Lin. In his eyes, Wang Lin's cultivation was only at the late foundation establishment stage, nothing remarkable. After Wang Lin's primordial spirit had slightly recovered, unless it was a nascent soul cultivator, no one could see through his cultivation level. Not long after, more than 10 streaks of sword light quickly flew out from the inner sect of the soul refining sect. In an instant, the old man flew to meet these people. Their eyes all gleamed with intelligence. More than 5 of them were nascent soul cultivators. The others were all mid-stage golden core cultivators. There was also a middle-aged scholar whose cultivation had unexpectedly reached the late nascent soul stage. He wore a black robe, and his whole body exuded a chilling aura, as if countless vengeful spirits were swirling around him. His appearance instantly made the surroundings cold. His gaze, like lightning, coldly swept across the mountain as he spoke. "Junior brother, what was the reason you sent this jade slip?" The old man immediately showed a respectful expression and said, "Third senior brother. The spiritual vein in this mountain has been instantly depleted and is now a ruined vein. I suspect this is related to the outer disciples." The middle-aged scholar's eyes flashed, and he shouted, "Seal off all sides. Anyone with unusual behavior will be killed immediately." As he spoke, he glanced at the old man and said, "Junior brother, come with me to the mountain to meet the sect master." After saying this, his body flashed, transforming into a rainbow, and he flew straight into the inner sect of the soul refining sect. The old man hurriedly followed. The 2 instantly entered the inner sect. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged, his eyes calm. He coldly glanced at the cultivators beside him. If he were to act now, he could instantly escape this place by summoning his spirit beast. Unless absolutely necessary, he truly didn't want to miss such a good cultivation place. Although his primordial spirit had recovered somewhat, it hadn't completely returned to its original state. He had just tried and found he couldn't take out the heaven-defying pearl. After a moment of contemplation, Wang Lin didn't act hastily. At this moment, the horizon was tinged with red, the morning light gradually revealing itself, warmth enveloping the earth, and light dispelling the darkness. The surroundings gradually brightened. At this time, the middle-aged scholar flew out from the inner sect of the soul refining sect. Behind him were 9 people. These 9 people were all wearing red robes of different ages, but they shared a commonality. A large number of vengeful spirits surrounded their bodies. From afar, under the sunlight, their bodies emitted bursts of dark purple energy, looking like overwhelming demonic flames. Everyone divide into 10 groups. Prepare for the inspection. The middle-aged scholar's eyes were gloomy as he shouted. The 9 red-robed cultivators behind him slowly advanced. 9 people simultaneously cast spells and flicked their sleeves. Immediately, a surge of crimson energy flew out, falling upon thousands of outer disciples. All the outer disciples were involuntarily divided into 10 groups. Including the middle-aged scholar, there were a total of 10 people, each in charge of a group, calling each outer disciple forward for inspection. They didn't even bother to ask a question. Each time an outer disciple entered, they would simply point their right hand at the disciple's forehead and then move on to the next. Wang Lin was assigned to the 3rd group. His gaze was calm, showing no sign of abnormality. All 9 of these people were at the mid-stage of the nascent soul realm. Wang Lin's original body had recovered somewhat, and he clearly didn't take these people seriously. Each outer disciple who passed breathed a sigh of relief. The long wait had left everyone feeling pressured. At this moment, a monk in a green robe from the 4th group, his body flashing, flew like a shooting star, fleeing towards the rear. The disciples of the soul refining sect on all sides were still watching intently. As soon as he moved, a mid-stage core formation disciple immediately stepped forward to stop him. "Get out of here," the monk in the green robe shouted, his right hand sweeping forward. Immediately, a powerful force struck out. The core formation disciple snorted softly, his body involuntarily tilting to one side. The monk in the green robe said nothing, his body rushing forward. At this moment, the monk in the red robe in charge of the 4th group let out a soft shout, his right hand grabbing at the air. "Come back!" Immediately, 5 black beams of light shot out from his 5 fingers, chasing after the monk in the green robe and penetrating his body. The monk in the green robe groaned miserably, his body limp, and with a single grab from the red robe, he was pulled back from a distance, falling into the open ground. Then, the monk in the red robe didn't even look at this person anymore, but calmly said, "Next, come up." The outer disciples were all uneasy, especially those with malicious intentions who wanted to infiltrate the group. Their faces were extremely grim. At this moment, the monk in the red robe in charge of the 8th group's eyes flashed, glancing briefly at the disciple he had just pointed at. This person's face was pale, even showing a pleading expression. The monk flicked his right hand, and the disciple immediately fell into the open space. Gradually, more and more outer disciples filled the open space, now numbering over 30. This method is only used to distinguish disciples who qualify to become inner disciples in the assembly. Today, we're using this method on you outer disciples. You should consider yourselves honored. The monk in charge of the 3rd group grabbed the disciple and threw him into the open space, speaking slowly. Wang Lin's gaze remained unchanged, but his heart was slightly shaken. This soul refining sect was truly strange. He hadn't expected so many people with malicious intentions. However, under the opponent's method, there was no escaping. As for the burly man who was originally in cave number 743, Wang Lin had previously placed a restriction on him, so he wasn't afraid of being discovered. Although his cultivation hadn't fully recovered, the profoundness of the restriction was something even a nascent soul cultivator couldn't see through. Wang Lin was somewhat interested in this person. On the surface, he was only in the late foundation establishment stage, but in reality, he had reached the early golden core stage. However, among the outer disciples, many concealed their cultivation, and he wasn't exactly a miraculous individual. "You go forward." The red-robed cultivator in charge of the 5th group pointed towards the burly man. The burly man's body trembled, then he stepped forward. The monk in the red robe pointed at the burly man's forehead, glanced at him briefly, and then waved his hand. The burly man breathed a sigh of relief and stepped aside. He didn't dare look at Wang Lin, only standing there feeling bewildered. Just now, when the old man pointed, he suddenly felt a chill run through his body, as if a cold stream of air had entered him. In an instant, his brain went blank, and at the same time, it seemed as if an invisible hand was flipping through his memories. This feeling came and went quickly. Before he could react, the cold air had left his body and returned to the finger of the person who had placed it on his forehead. Soon it was Wang Lin's turn. The monk in the red robe in charge of the third group pointed at Wang Lin's forehead and said, "Next." Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged as he stepped aside. By noon, more than several thousand disciples had been examined. Finally, more than 100 people remained in the open space. "Did you find anything?" The middle-aged scholar in charge of the last group threw one person into the middle of the open space and asked, "Except for those with ulterior motives." "Nothing related to last night's events could be found," a monk in a crimson robe said indifferently. The others all shook their heads. The remaining outer disciples should go to the next mountain to cultivate. "Someone will arrange things for you there," the middle-aged scholar said thoughtfully. The disciples who passed the inspection respectfully left, flying towards the other mountains in all directions. As for the more than 100 cultivators in the open space, no one even glanced at them. No one cared about the consequences they would face. On a slightly lower mountain nearby, Wang Lin was provided with a cave dwelling. At this moment, he was sitting cross-legged in the cave, his eyes flickering. "My cultivation has recovered to the mid-stage of the nascent soul realm. Absorbing the spiritual vein like I did just now, while effective, is extremely dangerous. Doing it frequently could attract the attention of nascent soul cultivators or powerful nascent soul experts. I shouldn't try it again. However, while absorbing the spiritual vein just now, I unexpectedly discovered that there's another very large main vein surrounding it. The spiritual vein I absorbed last time was merely a branch of this main vein. This main vein is the location of the inner sect of the soul refining sect. If I can get in there and find an opportunity to absorb it, I can immediately restore my cultivation. Even if someone discovers me, or even a nascent soul expert attacks, I'll still have a way to escape. At most, I'll open a spatial rift and use my spirit compass to leave." Wang Lin pondered for a moment. He knew that the soul refining sect was a 5th-tier cultivation sect, and it was clear that there were nascent soul cultivators guarding it. Thinking this, he made a decision. The upcoming June assembly is the best opportunity to enter the inner sect of the soul refining sect. It's said that the soul refining sect possesses a treasure that condenses over 1 million souls. When this soul banner is waved, the heavens and earth change color. It's a top-ranked magical artifact on the Vermilion Bird Star. Furthermore, the soul refining sect specializes in refining soul banners as its cultivation method. Although there are many soul-capturing and banner-refining divine abilities on the Vermilion Bird Star, none can compare to the soul refining sect. If one can learn this cultivation method, refining soul banners would undoubtedly be no less powerful than the Forbidden's banner. Wang Lin's eyes gleamed, and with a wave of his right hand, a phantom Forbidden's formation flew out, enveloping everything around him. He potted his storage bag, and a block of immortal jade shimmering with white light appeared in his hand. This block of immortal jade was missing a corner, but the immortal power it emitted was almost the same. Cultivation restored to the mid-stage nascent soul, able to swallow the immortal jade again, powerfully attacking the T-intent realm and seals. Wang Lin pondered for a moment, took a piece of immortal jade, took a deep breath, and put it in his mouth. Immediately, an unimaginable pain appeared. At this moment, in the Chu Kingdom, a mountain valley outside the immortal realm echoed with a series of silvery laughter and the mournful roar of a tiger. The valley was filled with the atmosphere of spring. On the lush green grass, Zichu, wearing a dress embroidered with peonies and with 2 braids in her hair, sat on the back of a tiger with black stripes, laughing and saying, "Little White, you didn't listen, so tonight I'll punish you by making you hold chopsticks to eat." The tiger roared, its voice tinged with sorrow. For the past year, it had been tormented by the little demoness every day, even waking up startled from nightmares. In these nightmares, the image of the little demoness was everywhere. "Why are you roaring so loudly? Next time, roar a little quieter. Ah." I suddenly thought of a very fun game. "Little White, can you learn to meow like a cat?" Little Chu clapped her small hands and smiled. Little White roared, its roar even more mournful. I wonder how Uncle is doing. Why hasn't he come back yet? Little White, do you miss Uncle? Little Chu sighed, patting the tiger's head with her small hand. The tiger let out a soft growl, as if in response. At this moment, it was thinking, I'm a tiger. How can I meow like a cat? Tai Yin sat cross-legged beneath the pagoda, his eyes showing a gentle expression as he looked at Little Chu. After a long while, he sighed. The news of Wang Lin's disappearance had already reached the Chu kingdom. He had kept this a secret from Little Chu. He still didn't believe that with his benefactor's cultivation, he could turn danger into safety. His benefactor said he would definitely return within 9 years, and he would definitely do it. Tai Yan's eyes revealed unwavering determination. 100 yards away from Tai Yan, Lee Washington lay lazily basking in the sun. Its large eyes gazed at the sun, half closed, revealing an expression of extreme enjoyment. It had spent almost the entire past year here. Looking at the white clouds in the sky, Lee Washington sometimes recalled its life in the ancient god's realm. It had lived there since birth, gradually growing up. In the ancient god's realm, it fought with all sorts of demonic beasts almost daily to steal food and territory, often engaging in fierce battles. Through countless years of fierce fighting, Lee Washington gradually grew stronger. Slowly, it learned to spit lightning balls. From then on, in the ancient god's realm, except for a few special demonic beasts, it ran rampant without any restraint. Now, remembering that moment, its belly swelled, only to deflate after a while. It remembered Wang Lin. It was Wang Lin who had taken it out of the ancient god's realm. Besides Wang Lin, he missed Wind Beast even more. Time passed slowly, and spring was gone in the blink of an eye. It was now June. June held no special significance for others, but for the soul refining sect in Pailuo Kingdom, it was a grand ceremony. This month, the Outer Disciples Assembly of the Soul Refining Sect was held. Through a series of elimination rounds, one person would be selected from tens of thousands of outer disciples to become an inner disciple. On this day, Wang Lin awoke from his seclusion. He slowly opened his eyes and looked around. His eyes were clearly black and white, but upon closer inspection, one could see a sparkling, bright starlight within them. The scars on his face had faded considerably, and now only 8 remained. These 8 tea-leaf-shaped scars were the key to Sun Tai's seal. The piece of immortal jade he had swallowed the day before had been completely absorbed by him. The seal, after being deeply penetrated, had contracted significantly, but it was still not completely removed. The late stage of nascent soul cultivation has reached its peak. Wang Lin murmured softly to himself, slowly standing up. He took a deep breath and walked out of the cave. I have gained insight into the meaning of life and death, the cycle of the heavenly Tao. The more I understand life and death in this world, the more I cannot escape it. Before, I always thought that life was life and death was death. But after understanding it, I discovered that sometimes life is death and death is life. I, Wang Lin, have spent my whole life killing, witnessing almost only one aspect of death. Only life is something I don't understand much. Li Muan's rebirth, and I to have been reborn. This can also be considered a kind of rebirth, but it's still not enough. Wang Lin walked, looking at the distant mountain range, gently shaking his head. Escaping death after this calamity, my temperament has changed somewhat compared to before. Especially the months I spent at the Fire Cloud camp made me deeply appreciate what it means to see life as life, to see death as death. But life is not really life, and death is not really death. These 2 types of enlightenment correspond to the early and middle stages of the transformation God realm. Wang Lin stood outside the cave, the mountain wind blowing, causing his clothes to flutter. This encounter has opened my mind. If I could go back, I could see that life is life, death is death, and then my understanding could break through, reaching the late stage of the God transformation realm. However, for a late-stage God transformation realm cultivator to successfully comprehend the meaning of life and death, and ultimately achieve complete mastery, is incredibly difficult. A complete late-stage God transformation realm cultivator must also have a complete understanding of their understanding. However, this complete understanding is completely different from the understanding of the nascent soul realm. That Li Yuanfeng was in the early stage of the nascent soul realm. His understanding could form a physical entity, leaving this scar on my body. This kind of power is clearly incomparable to the understanding of the God transformation realm. A complete understanding of the understanding in the God transformation realm is only one level. Above that is the nascent soul realm, requiring even deeper comprehension. Wang Lin's eyes showed a pensive expression. At this moment, he didn't notice that at the entrance of a distant cave, a stunningly beautiful woman was silently watching him. The woman's gaze was somewhat complex, bewildered, and yet tinged with helplessness. Back then, when I was in the immortal realm, Senior Chi gave me a piece of the peak-seeking star, which could slightly increase my chances of reaching the peak-seeking stage. This peak-seeking star is formed from the life essence of a cultivator. Peak-seeking. I don't know when I'll ever be able to reach it. If I can't break the seal now, even the transformation stage will be hopeless. Wang Lin sighed softly. Heavenly Fortune Master has accepted me as his disciple. Perhaps I should quickly go find him. Maybe I can reach the peak-seeking stage. However, leaving with my current cultivation level, with Siju Nan still unconscious and my cultivation level not yet elevated, I feel a little unwilling. More importantly, the cultivators of the Heavenly Fortune Star are undoubtedly very powerful. With my current cultivation level, I might not even be valued by Heavenly Fortune Master. Wang Lin pondered, suddenly realizing something, and immediately looked towards the distant gaze. Who is this woman? Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and his body flew towards the woman's cave dwelling. The woman withdrew her gaze, stepped back a few steps, and gestured for him to approach. Wang Lin landed where the woman had just been standing, his icy gaze fixed on her, unmoved by her stunning beauty, and said in a low voice, "Do you know me?" The woman looked at Wang Lin, her soft voice echoing, "You don't remember me." Wang Lin's eyes flickered as he stared intently at the woman. After carefully observing her, he still couldn't recall where he had met her. The mountain breeze blew, causing her silky hair to flutter, making her look like an ethereal fairy untouched by the dust of the world. She smoothed her hair with her delicate hand, looked up at Wang Lin, and softly said, "My name is Liu Mi." Liu Mi. Wang Lin looked at the woman, and after a moment, slowly said, "I don't know you." Liu Mi sighed softly and smiled. Her smile was as bright as a blooming flower, like the autumn sun shining, making everything around her seem dim. Brother Wang Lin, back then at the Henyu sect, the young man with the great sword on his back, you really don't remember. Wang Lin wasn't surprised that the woman had revealed her identity. He had guessed it since she said she was Liu Mi. I only know that Liu Mi is a woman with a naturally born water spiritual root from the Zhuandao sect. That woman isn't a disciple of the Vermilion Bird Kingdom. Wang Lin said calmly. Liu Mi was stunned. This expression rarely appeared on her face. She carefully looked at Wang Lin and softly said, "What do you mean by that, Senior Brother Wang?" Wang Lin said nothing, calmly looking at Liu Mi. After a while, Liu Mi lowered her head and softly said, "Senior Brother Wang, I'm afraid there's a misunderstanding. To be able to appear at the Zhuandao sect and enter the soul refining sect, I don't know of any other cultivation nation besides the Vermilion Bird Kingdom that could accomplish this." Wang Lin interrupted her, turned around, and left. Liu Mi smiled and said, "Just that alone, and you've already guessed I'm a disciple of the Vermilion Bird Kingdom." "Are you sure, Senior Brother Wang? I'm afraid you're just testing me." "Senior Brother Wang, I won't lie to you, Liu Mi, am indeed from the Vermilion Bird Kingdom." Wang Lin didn't turn around, his eyes showing a mocking expression, and slowly said, "Testing you? The bracelet on your hand, I've already seen it on Han Yi." As he spoke, Wang Lin's body lightly floated up and left the place. Liu Mi lowered her head and glanced at the bracelet on her hand. The mountain wind had just blown her sleeve, revealing the bracelet. She watched Wang Lin's departing figure, sighing softly, and murmured, 500 years have passed, and he has changed so much. The innocent youth of yesteryear is gone. Now his heart is as hard as steel. However, I wonder what his Dao heart is. No one knew Wang Lin's Dao heart except for her. Wang Lin felt a heavy weight in his heart at Liu Mi's appearance. The Vermilion Bird Kingdom was truly too powerful, its influence spanning the entire Vermilion Bird Star. No matter who he was, no matter where he was, he could feel the pressure of the Vermilion Bird Kingdom. The higher his cultivation, the greater this feeling. Even though his last trip to the Vermilion Bird Kingdom was brief, this invisible sense of danger remained vividly etched in Wang Lin's memory. Whether it was the silent immortal mansion or the battle with Hong Yi, Wang Lin always felt this suffocating sense of oppression. It was like the sky being covered by a layer of dark clouds. Only by using a sharp sword to cut through those clouds could he resist. The Vermilion Bird Kingdom, the overlord of the Vermilion Bird Star. However, as Wang Lin perceived it, although the Vermilion Bird Kingdom was the overlord, there was a deathly aura within it. This deathly aura wasn't the ordinary feeling of life and death reincarnation, but rather a feeling of losing vitality. The Vermilion Bird Kingdom is on the verge of its end. Wang Lin looked up into the distance. That was the direction of the Vermilion Bird Kingdom. 2 days later, the Soul Refining Sect's Grand Assembly took place. Over 10,000 outer disciples were arranged into more than 100 arenas. Several matches were held each day. Among these outer disciples were rogue cultivators and members of cultivation families. Their purpose in coming to the Soul Refining Sect was to wait for this day. The Soul Refining Sect's outer disciples held a single Grand Assembly. As long as a winner could be determined, life and death didn't matter. The winner wanted to kill the loser. As long as they had the ability, killing everyone wouldn't matter. Even among the outer disciples, a rumor circulated: the more people a participant killed, the greater their chances of being selected and pursuing the Tao. Those who could eliminate all opponents would achieve unimaginable strength after entering the inner sect. This rumor had spread since the Second Grand Assembly. In fact, many years ago, a killer appeared among the outer disciples, eliminating all opponents. Although he lost in the final decisive battle, he was still accepted into the inner sect. This exceptional acceptance immediately fueled the spread of the rumor. Each time the Grand Assembly takes place, out of more than 10,000 outer disciples, only a little over half survive, without exception. Those who lose in the Grand Assembly must pay even more spirit stones, retaining their outer disciple status, waiting for the next Grand Assembly to seek an opportunity to enter the inner sect. Over countless years, the number of outer disciples who have died in the Grand Assembly is countless. No one knows how many souls have been added to the soul banner of the Soul Refining Sect after each Grand Assembly. The Soul Refining Sect has grown stronger through this cruel method. Each Grand Assembly results in the deaths of countless outer disciples. Each battle is a river of blood. Wang Lin had been observing for the past few days. With each death, the soul was absorbed by the arena and completely disappeared. One day, Wang Lin ascended the arena. He silently and gently flew up, landing on the left side of the arena. A black-robed core formation cultivator, an inner disciple presiding over the match, coldly glanced at Wang Lin, secretly surprised. He observed that this person's cultivation level was not high among the outer disciples. Pretending not to notice, he said, "Number 8972, engage." A low shout rang out from the outer disciples, and immediately a plump figure, like a ball, crashed down onto the platform. He didn't say a word, and upon appearing, immediately formed a hand seal. A series of fireballs instantly appeared before him, raining fire down on Wang Lin. Late Foundation Establishment. Wang Lin shook his head. He had fixed his cultivation at the mid-core formation stage to enter the inner sect. At this moment, he waved his right hand, and his body flew down from the platform. The moment his body flew away, the fireballs suddenly vanished. The plump cultivator's body trembled. His head tilted to the side, and he fell to the ground unconscious. Wang Lin did not kill anyone. Killing a junior at the Foundation Establishment stage would be unforgivable. As time passed, a large number of outer disciples perished. After 7 days, more than 10,000 disciples, beyond the 100 who had advanced to the inner circle, had already lost 5/10. The remaining ones had either given up or suffered mutual destruction, ultimately losing their lives. During these 7 days, 4 outer disciples caught the attention of the Soul Refining Sect. Among them was an old man with salt and pepper hair. He possessed late-stage core formation cultivation. He killed all his opponents using his magic. This magic seemed miraculous. With just a touch from a distance and a soft shout of die, the opponent would die. When Wang Lin saw this technique, he instantly thought of the extreme realm. He was momentarily stunned, but after closer inspection, he realized that although this divine ability was similar to the extreme realm, it was completely different. Death Curse Technique. Wang Lin pondered for a moment, finally guessing the name of the technique. Back then, in the Demon Cultivation Sea, his extreme realm had been mistaken for this technique. That's how Wang Lin learned about this technique. The death curse technique was extremely difficult to cultivate. Wang Lin, after 500 years of cultivation, had never encountered one before. Another person was a thin, short young man. Although his cultivation was only at the early stage of the core formation realm, he possessed a beastly intuition, able to sense the fluctuations of any technique before it was even unleashed, and devise a countermeasure. If facing a high-level cultivator, intuition might not be of crucial importance, but against cultivators of the same rank, it clearly gave him a significant advantage, leaving him at no disadvantage. Even with Wang Lin's composure, upon seeing this young man, he couldn't help but feel a surge of admiration and a desire to take him as a disciple. However, he ultimately dismissed the idea. The third person Wang Lin knew was the burly man in cave number 743. This man possessed a talisman-like magical artifact, which he used to slay countless opponents. In battles against him, any cultivator who fought him was instantly annihilated. And the last person was, of course, Wang Lin himself. In all his battles, he could casually wave his hand and render his opponents unconscious, thus clearly drawing attention to himself. This was all intentional on Wang Lin's part. Only by attracting the opponent's attention could he ultimately qualify to enter the inner sect, thus avoiding surprising others. As for Liu Mi, Wang Lin believed that besides her purpose of contacting him, she certainly had other motives. Although she didn't appear in this competition, she would definitely have a way to enter the inner sect. Time passed quickly. After 7 days, the 100 disciples who made it to the next round continued their brutal elimination rounds, leaving only 4. Coincidentally, these 4 remaining individuals were the ones the soul refining sect had been paying attention to. One day, Wang Lin ascended the platform. Standing on the platform, he looked at the cultivator opposite him, a strange smile playing on his lips. His opponent was none other than the burly man from cave number 743. The presiding officer of this match was a nascent soul early-stage cultivator from the soul refining sect. He was middle-aged, with streaks of gray in his hair. He glanced at the 2 men and coldly said, "Begin." As soon as he finished speaking, the burly man immediately gave a wry smile, inwardly sighing, and hastily said, "I concede." The nascent soul cultivator was taken aback, looking at the burly man and saying, "You concede." The burly man quickly nodded, saying, "I concede." He then hurried down the platform, inwardly terrified, thinking, "I have that kid's restriction in my body now. I have to concede. Otherwise, if the opponent makes a move, I'll be dead without even needing to fight." After descending, he immediately tried to curry favor with Wang Lin. Wang Lin smiled, shook his head slightly, and descended the platform. The nascent soul cultivator looked deeply at Wang Lin, said nothing, and continued to preside over another match. The old man wielding spells fought against the young man with terrifying intuition. The battle between the 2 was extremely fast. The young man was powerless against the might of the death curse technique. At the last moment before his demise, a beam of spiritual light suddenly flew out from within the soul refining sect, saving him. Now, only Wang Lin and the old man surnamed Sima remained among the outer disciples participating in the competition. Their battle would take place the following day. As he ascended the high platform, Sima's eyes were somber. He had diligently cultivated the death curse technique for many years precisely for this day. Once he achieved ultimate victory, he could become an inner disciple. He believed that one day he would achieve the nascent soul stage. Moreover, the soul refining sect's soul transfer technique had some similarities with his own death curse technique. According to his master, if they cultivated simultaneously, the effect could reach an unbelievable level, only slightly inferior to the legendary, long-lost extreme realm. Remembering his master, a fervent glint appeared in Sima's eyes. In his eyes, his master was incredibly powerful. A nascent soul cultivator could be instantly killed with a single word of death from his master's mouth. Even transformation god cultivators rarely escaped. In his opinion, his master's cultivation level absolutely qualified him to challenge a nascent soul stage expert. Death curse. Unless the opponent's cultivation level far surpasses yours, there's no way to resist it. I've studied this curse for many years and understand that it was created by ancient cultivators who failed to achieve the extreme realm. If one can cultivate it to its peak, they might even attain a trace of the extreme realm's power. His master's words echoed in his ears. Sima's gaze was resolute as he looked at his last remaining enemy. He had no intention of sparing this young man named Xingmu. His eyes gleamed with killing intent, and with a flick of his right hand, he softly shouted, "Death!" The death curse technique was unleashed as he instructed. This technique was created by ancient cultivators who, after failing to master the extreme realm, imitated it. It's incredibly difficult to master, but compared to the impossibility of controlling the extreme realm, it offers greater potential. Once mastered, simply uttering the word death will instantly kill anyone it targets. To cultivate this technique, 3 energies must be unified. These 3 energies are death energy, yin energy, and killing energy. Death energy is formed by absorbing and condensing corpse energy. Although its attribute is yin, it contains the essence of death. The second is yin energy, possessing the nature of primal yin. Yin energy is accumulated through the use of yin cultivation technique. This type of yin energy contains life force. These 2 energies merge, using 2 different cultivation paths to form a yin aura, which, combined with the third energy, killing energy, must be unified. Only after the 3 energies are unified and subjected to 9 deaths and 1 life or death trials can one begin to grasp the death curse technique. Once one cultivates the death curse, they must endure daily pains unimaginable to ordinary people. Furthermore, every 3 years they must undergo a life or death trial. Only after several cycles of this can the death curse be considered to have achieved some success. Continuing to cultivate further increases the risk of death. After all, this technique is merely an imitation of the extreme realm. Compared to the extreme realm, its power is much weaker, but the level of danger during cultivation far surpasses it. Upon careful consideration, the losses outweigh the gains. While its attack power is terrifying, over time, fewer and fewer people cultivate the death curse. Sima uttered the word death, unleashing the death curse, his right hand pointing out. The moment his finger touched the void, a strange ripple suddenly appeared, instantly spreading outwards. The void, like a calm body of water disturbed by a thrown stone, rippled with waves. Wang Lin's eyes flashed with a strange light. He remained standing in place, sensing the death curse technique. The moment Sima's finger pointed, he immediately felt a surge of icy cold energy within his body. This icy cold energy was completely different from that of cultivating the Yellow Springs Ascension technique. As soon as it appeared, a powerful aura surged within Wang Lin's body. This aura instantly stunned Wang Lin. He was extremely familiar with this aura. If it had originated from his original body, it wouldn't have been surprising. But this body hadn't killed many people in its life, yet it could unexpectedly condense such a killing intent. Although this killing intent was faint, it immediately merged with the icy cold energy, forming an extremely sharp and peculiar force that traveled through his body into his primordial spirit. This alone proved Wang Lin's immense power. A single ray of the death curse technique unleashed a bizarre destructive force, yet with just a thought, this strange force was condensed by his primordial spirit, allowing him to carefully observe it. With his understanding of the extreme realm, a single glance was enough to see through the origin of the death curse technique. While the death curse technique was powerful, it was far inferior to the extreme realm. The extreme realm was a mutated heavenly tribulation capable of instantly killing cultivators of the same level. However, this death curse technique was merely a divine ability. If the target had lower cultivation, it would be instantly fatal, but against a stronger opponent, its effect was negligible. For example, a cultivator at the mid-stage of the Golden Core realm using this technique can easily defeat those below the mid-stage. And even against a cultivator at the same mid-stage of the Golden Core realm, they have a certain chance of success. Even if they fail, it will still cause a mental shock to the opponent. But if the opponent is in the late stage of the core formation realm, this spell has very little effect, and if one is not careful, it can even backfire. Compared to the extreme realm, it's far inferior. Wang Lin shook his head slightly. Although this death curse spell is said to be miraculous, it offers him no help. With a slight thought, the strange power of the death curse spell immediately dissipated in his body. The moment it vanished, Sima's body trembled, his eyes showing disbelief, and he spat out a large mouthful of fresh blood, his eyes dull and lifeless. The death curse spell was neutralized, and his cultivation was insufficient to suppress its backlash. His body trembled, and he fell to the ground. At this moment, a beam of spiritual light flew out from the soul-refining sect, wrapping around Sima's body and pulling him into the inner sect. Without any suspense, Wang Lin emerged victorious this time. The inner disciple presiding over the competition bowed to Wang Lin and said, "My name is Wang Zhen. Next time we meet, I will call you Jin, your brother. Qingmu, follow me to see the elder." Wang Lin smiled and nodded, then transformed into a rainbow, flying one after the other towards the inner sect of the soul refining sect. The inner sect of the soul refining sect formed its own realm. After passing through the inner sect's grand formation, Wang Lin saw a continuous mountain range with 3 towering peaks standing majestically before him. These 3 peaks are the locations of the 3 sects within the inner sect of the soul refining sect. The 3 sects of soul refining are soul refining, soul extraction, and spirit locking. As they flew, Wang Zhen introduced the scene. Wang Lin nodded, looking towards the 3 large mountains. Behind these 3 mountains was an enormous golden halo. Inside this halo was like another realm radiating golden light from afar, enveloping the entire inner sect of the soul refining sect. Those 9 golden rings are the secluded retreats of 9 nascent soul stage seniors of our soul refining sect. One day, I too will reach nascent soul stage and become the 10th golden ring. Wang Zhen's eyes revealed a fervent reverence. Wang Lin glanced at the golden rings. He could clearly feel the boundless spiritual power emanating from within them. If my cultivation recovers, those nascent soul stage cultivators inside these golden rings will be no match for me. Wang Lin's expression remained normal. "Qingmu, do you know Zheng Niu?" Wang Zhen turned and asked. "Zheng Niu?" Wang Lin's expression was unchanged. He nodded and said, "I've heard of him. Back then, our soul refining sect originally had 10 nascent soul stage cultivators, but one died at the hands of this Zheng Niu." Wang Zhen's eyes showed reverence as he continued, "This Zheng Niu is my target. One day, I will become the #1 person below the nascent soul stage on the Vermilion Bird Star alongside him." What? Wang Lin was stunned, racking his brain but unable to remember when he had killed a nascent soul stage cultivator from the soul refining sect. Many people know about this. Back then, the nascent soul stage ancestor traveled to Zheng Niu's country, unfortunately clashing with him and being killed. Wang Zhen said. Wang Lin rubbed his nose. He really couldn't stand that statement. This Zheng Niu disappeared just as our soul refining sect's ancestor, the hidden heaven water ancestor, was preparing to go find him to question him about the reason. Wang Zhen said. The hidden heaven water ancestor. Wang Lin's eyes flashed. "It's all right to tell you this. You'll become an inner sect disciple anyway. Our soul refining sect has 2 nascent soul stage ancestors, one of whom is the hidden heaven water ancestor. Do you see that golden ring? Behind that golden ring are 2 blood rings. That's where the 2 ancestors are in seclusion," Wang Zhen said. Wang Lin looked up, and behind the 9 enormous golden rings, a faint trace of blood could be seen. While they were talking, they entered Soul Refining Peak. On the summit of Soul Refining Peak was a grand hall built from large blue stones. Wang Zhen stopped outside the hall and said, "Qingmu, go in. The elders inside will make arrangements for you." Wang Lin nodded, his expression calm, and stepped into the main hall. The hall was pitch black, and the moment he entered, a wave of oppressive power surged towards him. However, this pressure was useless against Wang Lin. He feigned a look of inability to withstand the pressure and stopped. At this moment, the oppressive power subsided, and an old voice rang out, "Come forward." Wang Lin's face showed relief as he stepped forward. Suddenly, the hall brightened, and the crimson flames on all sides slowly ignited. Inside stood an old man in a green robe, his eyes shining brightly as he looked at Wang Lin. This man's cultivation had clearly reached the late stage of the nascent soul realm, nearing the God transformation realm, only lacking the comprehension of the heavenly Tao. "What is your name?" The old man, his gaze returning to Wang Lin, calmly said, "My name is Qingmu." Wang Lin clasped his hands and respectfully replied, "How did you break Sima's death curse?" The old man's eyes narrowed. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged as he calmly said, "I concealed my cultivation. In reality, I have reached the great perfection of the core formation stage. That death curse naturally couldn't harm me." The old man nodded. He realized that Qingmu hadn't lied. He had indeed concealed his cultivation. The moment this person entered the main hall, he had discovered Qingmu's true cultivation level, not the mid-core formation stage, but the great perfection of the core formation stage. The old man's body moved slightly, instantly appearing beside Wang Lin. His right thumb pointed forward, swiftly placing it on Wang Lin's forehead. Wang Lin didn't dodge. The moment the other party pressed his finger against his forehead, a wave of icy cold air surged into his body. However, Wang Lin's primordial spirit showed no fear whatsoever. After a moment, the old man withdrew his finger, his gaze no longer icy cold as he looked at Wang Lin and said in a deep voice, "I am the great elder of the soul refining peak. Go to the heavenly pavilion to exchange for disciples' robes and tokens. You can also go to the soul refining peak scripture repository to choose various cultivation techniques. Then, find a place on this mountain to open a cave dwelling and cultivate." In our soul refining sect, there are no masters. It's entirely self-study. If you have any questions, come and ask me. Wang Lin nodded in agreement, respectfully turned and left. Not long after he left, two powerful divine senses appeared in the main hall. "Junior brother, how is this person?" "No problem." The old man snorted softly. "Junior brother, in recent years, several of the ancestors have been in seclusion. I want to close the doors and not accept disciples to prevent those with ulterior motives from infiltrating." How ridiculous! Aren't there already enough people with ulterior motives in our soul refining sect? Adding one more won't make much difference, and subtracting one won't make much difference either. You two senior brothers insist that for every 10 people who enter your sect, one has ulterior motives. First, focus on your own affairs. Don't meddle in the affairs of our soul refining peak. The old man's tone was icy cold. Your resentment is immense, junior brother, ha ha. The young man with prophetic intuition has been chosen by me. The one who possesses the death curse technique has been chosen by junior brother Suo Shen. Now only this one remains, the ultimate winner. Aren't you satisfied yet, junior brother? Nonsense, those two possess their own unique divine abilities. This one is merely slightly more powerful. How can they compare, senior brothers, farewell? The old man's expression was very unpleasant. Two streams of divine consciousness emitted a loud laugh, then dissipated. Wang Lin walked on soul refining peak, withdrawing his divine consciousness. The nascent soul stage cultivators are all in seclusion. For now, the soul refining sect is guarded by these three. Wang Lin's eyes flashed as he headed towards the heavenly pavilion. There, after changing into his disciples' robes and token, Wang Lin, seeing that it was still early, went to the scripture repository. The scripture repository of soul refining peak wasn't large, only 3 floors. From a distance, it looked extremely ordinary, with nothing special about it. Wang Lin stepped inside, his gaze suddenly focusing on an old man sitting within. This old man's cultivation was almost at the nascent soul stage, only a little short. The old man's complexion was sallow, and his body was thin. He indifferently noticed someone entering, his eyelids twitching slightly as he said, "The token." Wang Lin took out the token he had just been given. The old man glanced at it and said, "Except for not being allowed to go to the 3rd floor, you can explore freely. You have 3 days." Wang Lin nodded and entered the building. The 1st floor caught his eye with its rows of bookshelves filled with jade slips, bamboo tablets, and even some stone tablets. Wang Lin's gaze swept across them. These cultivation techniques were vast and comprehensive. Some he already knew, while others he had never encountered before. However, this place lacked the method for crafting soul banners. After surveying the area, Wang Lin ascended to the 2nd floor. There were far fewer jade slips on the 2nd floor compared to the lower floor, scattered haphazardly, each with a brief introduction. Wang Lin's divine consciousness swept across, immediately spotting a jade slip on a shelf with 4 characters written on it, creating soul banners. He picked up the jade slip, concentrated his gaze, and his eyebrows furrowed. This jade slip did indeed record the method for crafting soul banners. However, the explanations within were no different from the methods used by ordinary cultivators outside. If the soul refining sect truly used this method to craft soul banners, it wouldn't have achieved such widespread fame. After carefully searching the 2nd floor, Wang Lin still found nothing. His gaze shifted to the 3rd floor, and after a moment of contemplation, he didn't act rashly but returned to where the old man was sitting on the 1st floor. He clasped his hands and said, "Senior, why can't I go up to the 3rd floor?" The old man exhaled, glanced at Wang Lin, and said, "You can't go up, that's all." Why all this nonsense? Wang Lin's eyes were cold as he stared at the old man. The old man raised his eyebrows, muttered a few words, and impatiently said, "Don't glare. Are you looking for the jade slip recording the method of crafting the soul banner? Let me tell you, there's nothing like that here, not even on the 3rd floor. There are only 10 jade slips for crafting the soul banner. If you want one, go and steal it. Look, see? There's one inside the cave that you can learn from." Wang Lin's gaze followed the old man's pointing finger, and indeed, there was a cave dwelling. The soul refining sect has no rules. If you have the ability to kill, then kill. If you set your sights on something, then rob it. If you set your sights on a female cultivator, then attack her. If you don't have the ability, find a few others who also lack the ability to cultivate together. That way, you can avoid being robbed by others. The old man's eyes showed a mocking expression as he spoke. No rules, just do as you please. Wang Lin smiled. The soul refining sect was indeed interesting. His eyes suddenly flashed, and his right hand suddenly swung up. The old man's body was instantly grabbed by an invisible hand and thrown into the air. The old man was stunned, then burst into laughter. His previous indifferent expression vanished, replaced by a surge of fighting spirit. He laughed loudly. All right. You're the first person in 100 years to dare to attack me. I'll play along with you." After speaking, his body stirred slightly, struggling to break free. Wang Lin's eyes were cold, and he casually swung his right hand. Immediately, a powerful force grabbed the old man's body, and with a loud bang, slammed him against the cliff. The old man was stunned, and after regaining his senses, he was about to roar in anger when his body was pulled back and thrown out again. Bang, bang, bang! The repeated collisions caused the old man to groan miserably, blood gushing from the corners of his mouth. Finally, seeing Wang Lin still trying to grab him, he hurriedly begged for mercy. "Don't throw me anymore. Grandpa, I call you Grandpa. Please spare me. If you keep hitting me, my old bones will be shattered." Wang Lin released his grip, and the old man, who had fallen to the ground, got up and said with a bitter smile, "Junior brother, with your cultivation level, you should just go and kill someone to seize the jade slip. In our soul refining sect, as long as you don't slaughter too many people, no one will bother you." Wang Lin glanced at the old man, turned around, and walked towards the cave dwelling the old man had pointed to. There were several restrictions outside the cave dwelling. Wang Lin's divine sense swept over it, and he immediately discovered a middle-aged man sitting cross-legged there. 2 female cultivators were also sitting near the cave wall. Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and with a slight movement of his right hand, several residual restrictions immediately rushed out. With a loud bang, the restrictions outside the cave dwelling, even the stone sealing the entrance, completely collapsed. The thin old man in the distance trembled, thinking to himself that from now on, Soul Refining Peak had another person not to be trifled with. With the cave dwelling destroyed, the man inside immediately roared in anger, transforming into a rainbow and suddenly rushing out. Without a word, he potted his storage bag, and a small purple flag immediately appeared in his hand. His hand trembled, and hundreds of wailing souls rushed out. Among these souls were both male and female, emitting mournful cries that filled the air, attacking Wang Lin. "You've destroyed my cave dwelling. You want to die." Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. The souls rushing out of the cave dwelling were not nascent soul stage, but like the old man, were only at the late stage of the golden core realm. However, the soul banner in his hand was somewhat unusual. Wang Lin could see a golden thread on it at a glance. Souls emanated from it, emitting black energy, completely different from ordinary souls that would dissipate with a gust of wind. These hundreds of souls all possessed abundant soul power, and surprisingly, some of them even emitted an aura of power comparable to that of ordinary golden core cultivators. They've grown. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He could see that this soul banner had something special about it. These souls were imprisoned within the soul banner without interruption, their divine powers still growing. Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and his right hand extended a claw through the air. Immediately, the soul banner of the Foundation Establishment cultivator left his hand and flew into Wang Lin's. Wang Lin pointed at the soul banner, wiping away the opponent's consciousness. His mind stirred slightly, and he merged into the soul banner, a feeling like cool water seeping into his heart. The soul banner vibrated, and the screaming souls were instantly sucked into it. The Foundation Establishment cultivator's mouth dropped open, and he took a deep breath. Without a word, he immediately took out a black jade slip from his storage bag and threw it to the ground. He instantly left, shouting, "I surrender! I surrender! This cave dwelling belongs to you. This jade slip belongs to you. I don't need that soul banner either. It's all yours. In my cave dwelling, I still have 2 concubines who cultivate together, one of whom I haven't had a chance to touch yet. If you like them, they're all yours. I've given them all to you. According to the rules, you mustn't kill me." Having said that, his body quickly flew out. Wang Lin glanced at him dismissively, not attacking, but instead summoning with his right hand. The black jade slip fell into his hand. He concentrated on examining it. At this moment, 2 women emerged from inside the cave dwelling. Both of them were of superior appearance. There was not a hint of surprise on their faces, as if the robbery of this cave dwelling was just a normal occurrence, and they simply stood silently outside the cave dwelling. This is the method for crafting soul banners of the soul refining sect. However, it's not complete. Wang Lin withdrew his divine consciousness, frowning. A woman in jade-colored clothes, seeing that Wang Lin had finished reading the entire jade slip, raised her eyebrows and immediately said, "Senior brother, have you noticed that the method for crafting the soul banner in this jade slip is incomplete?" Wang Lin looked up at the 2 women, both of whom were at the mid-stage core formation cultivation level. "Why is that?" Wang Lin asked. The woman in jade-colored clothes quickly said, "Senior brother, you are Qingbu, the one who just won the competition outside, right?" Junior sister Su Yun greets senior brother. As for the incomplete soul banner, it's because the soul refining sect's method for crafting the soul banner is divided into 3 parts, the same as the names of the 3 great peaks: soul refining, soul extraction, and spirit locking. Only when these 3 methods are combined does it truly constitute the method for crafting the soul banner. Wang Lin's eyes flickered. He put away the jade slip and glanced around the cave dwelling. This was not to his liking. His divine sense swept across the area, and his body transformed into a rainbow, flying towards the foot of the mountain. The 2 girls were stunned, looked at each other, and hurriedly followed behind. In the soul refining sect, disciples living alone, unless their cultivation was extremely high, were in great danger and had to depend on others for survival. Therefore, they would gather in groups of 3 to 5. Whenever they lost a fight, they had to hand over everything. After handing it over, the other party couldn't still kill them. Otherwise, the elders would intervene. This unreasonable rule couldn't foster loyalty among the disciples. Everyone understood this principle, but no one knew why the soul refining sect did it this way. Previously, the 2 girls relied on the senior brother whom Wang Lin had defeated and forced to flee. Naturally, they had to follow Wang Lin. Wang Lin, who was flying, raised his eyebrows, stopped, and turned to shout, "Don't follow me." After saying that, he coldly glanced at the 2 girls, then turned and left. "Senior sister, what should we do now?" The woman beside Su Yun said worriedly. Su Yun stamped her foot and snorted softly, "What else can we do? He doesn't want us to follow him, so we won't argue. Once he finds his cave dwelling, we'll stay there. That way, others will respect him and won't disturb our cultivation." At the foot of Soul Refining Peak, Wang Lin's gaze rested on a rocky outcrop. After carefully examining it, he pointed his right hand, and a flying sword instantly shot out from his storage bag, soaring through the air. A moment later, a cave dwelling took shape. Wang Lin moved slightly, flying into the cave dwelling, casually casting a protective spell to seal it. Inside the cave dwelling, Wang Lin's gaze settled on a wall in front of him. He chose this location because it was the closest to the spiritual vein. Although he couldn't absorb the spiritual vein in front of him at this moment, extracting a little from it wouldn't hurt. Wang Lin's body flashed, disappearing from the spot. When he reappeared, he was standing beside the spiritual vein of Soul Refining Peak. After sitting down cross-legged, Wang Lin's divine consciousness swept across the area, and his expression suddenly changed. Deep within the spiritual vein of the Soul Refining Peak, a black mist permeated, preventing his divine consciousness from penetrating. A large amount of spiritual power from the vein, transformed into threads, was slowly absorbed by the black mist. When Wang Lin's divine consciousness reached this black mist, he immediately sensed mournful and tragic cries emanating from within, and a group of souls appearing and disappearing. Blocking divine consciousness, Wang Lin's eyes flashed, and he immediately sensed a restriction covering the black mist. This restriction was the reason his divine consciousness couldn't penetrate. Wang Lin observed carefully for a moment, and suddenly his eyes became serious. Could this be an ancient soul forbidden spell? Wang Lin's heart trembled. Ancient soul forbidden spells are among the rarest ancient spells. Not only are they unpredictable, but their power is several times greater than other ordinary spells. Ordinary spells are like inanimate objects requiring a key or a fixed method to open. But soul forbidden spells are different. They can be said to be like living beings. In fact, the entire spell is a soul merely existing in the form of a spell. Wang Lin's eyes flickered, and after a moment of contemplation, his body moved slightly, disappearing from his spot and reappearing beside the ancient soul forbidden spell. As soon as he reappeared, the soul forbidden spell within the black mist immediately swirled violently. Two dark lights suddenly shone from within, and at the same time, a soul-like roar erupted from within. Under this roar, Wang Lin's consciousness trembled, and his body immediately retreated. His eyes flashed as he stared at the black mist, remaining silent. The howling sound just now was full of warning. The soul-sealing forbiddance technique is definitely a treasure. Wang Lin's eyes flickered, his expression serious, and he formed hand seals. In an instant, numerous afterimages appeared, circling around his body. "Break!" Wang Lin shouted softly, pointing his hands forward. Immediately, the afterimages of the forbiddance technique on all sides quickly flew out, all clinging to the top of the black mist. These afterimages connected, like a long hand, penetrating into the black mist. Two dark lights within the black mist emitted furious energy. In just a blink of an eye, the black mist swirled violently, suddenly emitting a roar even more powerful than the previous soul attack. This sound reached Wang Lin's primordial spirit, and he immediately felt a sharp pain emanating from the cracks in his split primordial spirit. Wang Lin's expression darkened, and he immediately retreated. At this moment, the black mist swirled even more wildly. It violently retracted, and all the black mist instantly condensed in the center. Almost in the blink of an eye, as the black mist completely condensed, a two-horned demonic beast appeared, its entire body emitting mist and black threads. The moment this demonic beast appeared, Wang Lin glanced and saw that the place where the black mist had previously covered was a small golden flag one. The black mist obviously emanated from this small flag. One golden flag, small yellow flag. When its four legs touched the ground, its large head opened a blood-red mouth towards Wang Lin, and its two eyes emitted a dark light. All the forbidden illusions that Wang Lin had previously unleashed were now imprinted on this demonic beast, flashing incessantly. The demonic beast shook its head, spitting out two streams of black gas. It stared intently at Wang Lin. Its body, like a calf, suddenly leapt up, ferociously attacking Wang Lin. After senior brother Qingmu comes out of seclusion and sees this scene, will he say we acted on our own accord? Liu Wei frowned, lowering her voice. Liu Wei was one of the two women from before. Her body was small and delicate, a head shorter than Si Yun. Even so, her figure was still very beautiful and graceful, captivating to behold. Probably not. Cultivators all love beauty. Oh, actions have made this place so beautiful. Although he doesn't show joy on the surface, he certainly won't be angry inwardly. Junior sister Liu Wei, rest assured. Si Yun chuckled, picking up a fruit and taking a bite. In the past few months, senior brother Qingmu's reputation has spread far and wide thanks to us. Our lives are much better than before. If things can continue like this, that would be wonderful. In the past few months, the number of souls I've captured is much greater than before. Liu Wei said with a hint of joy on her face. If it weren't for others stealing them, with my talent, I could definitely refine the 100 Souls banner. Then, using this banner for cultivation, I could certainly reach the late stage of the Golden Core Realm. Su Yun nodded and said, Sister, I'm still a little worried. Recently, the number of visitors has been increasing. If senior brother Qingmu finds out it's because of our publicity, I'm afraid he won't go easy on us. Liu Wei lowered her voice. He probably won't before Su Yun could finish speaking. A rainbow suddenly shot down from the mountaintop, stopping outside the cave and transforming into a middle-aged man in a gray robe. This man had a handsome appearance, his long hair fluttering in the wind, giving him a somewhat ethereal, almost otherworldly aura. Junior brother Qingmu, I am Guo Dongjian. I hope you will come out to meet me. Senior brother Guo, please go back. Senior brother Qingmu is in seclusion. Su-yun stood up, speaking coquettishly. Guo Dongjian raised his eyebrows, glancing at Su-yun, and said, "Are you to Qingmu's concubines?" Liu Wei's face flushed, and she remained silent. But Su-yun's expression didn't change. She smiled and said, "Senior brother, we are indeed senior brother Qingmu's concubines." Dongjian's gaze was cold as he swept his eyes over Liu Wei, and he said coldly, "Nonsense. You've deceived one person after another, and now you dare to deceive me, Guo? Get out of the way." After speaking, he turned around, raised his right hand, and immediately a spiritual incantation appeared, transforming into a green dragon that roared and charged towards the cave dwelling. As soon as the green dragon appeared, a sandstorm arose all around. While roaring, the green dragon struck the cave dwelling. At this moment, a restriction suddenly appeared, blocking the green dragon. Simultaneously, a hand materialized from the void, pressing down on the green dragon. The green dragon immediately let out a groan, transforming into numerous points of light that scattered and vanished. Guo Dongjian's expression changed, and he retreated a few steps, his gaze fixed on the depths of the cave dwelling. Wang Lin slowly emerged from the cave dwelling, sunlight shining on him, unexpectedly scattering bursts of black energy. This black energy condensed behind him, forming a huge skull. Heavenly Soul Banner illusion. Guo Dongjian's face changed drastically, turning pale, and he retreated several more steps. Wang Lin's gaze was calm as he glanced at Guo Dongjian. This man's cultivation level was at the early nascent soul stage. "Hand over the soul banner, and I'll allow you to leave." Wang Lin's voice was calm. Guo Dongjian's face darkened. Without a word, he immediately potted his storage bag, and a soul banner with 2 golden threads appeared in his hand. He shook it, and a swarm of souls rushed out, transforming into streaks of black soul energy, forming a ferocious face of a group of souls, roaring and glaring at Wang Lin. He muttered something under his breath, took 2 steps back, and pointed the soul banner at Wang Lin, shouting, "I also have the heavenly soul banner. If you can win, I'll hand it over." Immediately, the souls outside his body roared and attacked Wang Lin. Among these souls, some were equivalent to foundation establishment stage cultivation, some were core formation stage, and there was even a very large soul with 2 horns on its head, radiating the aura of nascent soul stage. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. He pointed his right hand forward and softly uttered, "Spring." Instantly, a massive whirlwind appeared before him. The moment this whirlwind appeared, Guo Dongjian's face turned ashen, and he said bitterly, "Brother Qingmu, this time you were in seclusion cultivating the soul refining technique. To have cultivated a soul spring in just 3 months, I am truly impressed." As he spoke, the souls that rushed towards him immediately let out mournful cries and were sucked into the whirlwind. In an instant, all these souls, except for the one emitting the nascent soul aura, vanished. The soul with 2 horns emitting the nascent soul aura let out a cry, and somehow managed to evade the whirlwind's pull, quickly escaping into the distance. "Ah!" Wang Lin's eyes suddenly flashed. His right hand extended a claw through the air, and immediately the soul let out a miserable groan and was pulled back. "Where did you obtain this nascent soul?" Wang Lin glanced at the soul and then looked up at Guo Dongjian. Guo Dongjian sighed inwardly, seeing the other party unleash the soul spring. He had completely given up resisting. "Senior brother Qingmu, congratulations on becoming the 3rd disciple of the soul refining peak to cultivate the soul spring. This nascent soul was obtained by me exchanging 100 souls banner with 900 souls with Su Jinqi of the soul extraction peak. In 3 months of cultivation, Wang Lin relied on the pressure of the spiritual vein to greatly increase his cultivation, breaking through to the nascent soul stage. He only needed to wait for his primordial spirit to recover before returning to the God transformation stage. The scars on his face were reduced to only 3, and Suntai's seal was on the verge of shattering. Compared to this, his greatest gain was that while absorbing the energy, he felt as if the entire soul refining peak was enveloped by a massive, invisible object. Occasionally, a few souls would emerge from this invisible object. Each time a soul emerged, over 100 streams of spiritual power would immediately surge from the entire soul refining peak, vying to seize it. These souls didn't appear from a single source, but were scattered, appearing in every location on the soul refining peak. This discovery stirred something within Wang Lin, and he immediately took out the soul refining jade slip and carefully examined it. Gradually, he discerned some clues. The soul banner's three techniques were divided into soul refining, soul extraction, and spirit locking. Among them, soul refining involves refining all the dead souls in the world, sealing them within a soul banner, and using a special method to prevent them from dissipating and instead causing them to gradually grow stronger. Soul extraction, on the other hand, is different. This technique doesn't refine dead souls but extracts living souls from living bodies, then seals them within a soul banner for control. As for soul locking, Wang Lin had nothing to compare it to, so he couldn't deduce anything. According to Soul Refining Wind, soul banners are divided into 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000 soul banners based on the number of souls inside. The more souls, the greater their power. 10 and 100 soul banners are extremely ordinary. Anything special only happens when a heavenly soul banner is formed, granting it certain divine abilities. Its power is greatly related to the main soul. To create a heavenly soul banner, a main soul is necessary. This is also the reason why there aren't many heavenly soul banners. The 100 souls banner reached its ultimate level with 999 souls, but because it lacked a main soul, it couldn't form the heavenly soul banner. As for what the main soul should be like, there were no other requirements than its immense power. The main soul's power had to surpass the combined strength of all the previous souls. While Wang Lin was studying the soul banner, a voice suddenly came from deep within the spiritual vein. Brother Qingmu, your cultivation has recovered more than half. That's wonderful. The moment Liu Mi spoke, Wang Lin pointed his right hand into the air, and immediately Xiyun and Li Wei's bodies trembled and they fell unconscious. Liu Mi, just tell me your purpose directly. There's no need to do this. It will ruin my impression of you. Wang Lin stared at Liu Mi, his voice icy cold. Liu Mi looked at Wang Lin, sighed softly, and lowered her voice, saying, Wang Lin, your calamity has arrived. Let's go, leave the vermilion bird star. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. He said nothing, waiting for Liu Mi's next words. I don't want to deceive you. You know I'm from the Vermilion Bird Kingdom, but you don't know that my master is no ordinary person. He is the #1 person on this Vermilion Bird Star, Vermilion Bird Sun, Liu Mi said softly. Wang Lin's eyes suddenly flashed, and a sudden clarity dawned on him. He abruptly asked, after our battle, how is Hang Dai doing now? After hearing Liu Mi's words and connecting them to his previous thoughts, he suddenly considered a terrifying possibility. A hint of admiration appeared in Liu Mi's eyes. She looked at Wang Lin and lowered her voice, saying, Hang Dai was killed by my senior brother. Wang Lin took a deep breath, confirming his prediction, and said in a low voice, it seems that my battle with Hang Dai was merely a beastly fight in the eyes of some. Liu Mi bit her lower lip, lowering her voice, Brother Wang, you should leave, the sooner the better. After saying this, she looked deeply at Wang Lin, sighed softly, and turned to leave. Wang Lin, Liu Mi must obey master's orders, allowing my image to remain in your Dao heart. This is a fate Liu Mi cannot resist. Master's command is difficult to disobey in this battle of Dao hearts. Unless your image is present in my Dao heart, you have no chance of victory. However, what I, Liu Mi, have comprehended is the heavenly illusion heartless Dao. Outwardly, all tangible symbols can be transformed, but only the inner self remains heartless. How can you possibly win? Liu Mi left, sighing softly in her heart, thinking to herself. Deep within her eyes, a hint of cold heartlessness flickered, but this heartlessness was concealed by her expression, impossible to discern. Wang Lin watched Liu Mi's figure, his eyebrows still tightly furrowed. This time, Liu Mi approached and said a few words, seemingly having figured out the problem, but in reality, there were countless and clear points. This is a bit strange, Liu Mi. I always have a peculiar feeling. It's really strange, Wang Lin muttered, his eyebrows still furrowed. After a moment, he looked at the two girls, Xiyun and Liu Wei, not far away. He waved his sleeve, sweeping them 100 feet outside the cave. But the moment he lifted the two girls, his heart suddenly trembled, as if he had thought of something. He extended his right hand and pulled the two girls back. He looked closely. Their expressions, while unconscious, were very different. Xiyun had always appeared relatively resolute. When speaking, she always took the lead, revealing a very strong sense of resilience. But at this moment, in her unconscious state, A hint of weakness and helplessness appeared on her face. In contrast, the woman who had always given Wang Lin the impression of gentleness and weakness now displayed a ruthless and resolute expression. Clearly, she was the type who was outwardly soft but inwardly tough. A flash of lightning seemed to strike Wang Lin's mind. His eyes suddenly brightened, and he stared intently in the direction Liu Mi had left, a cold smile playing on his lips. I understand why I always felt this strange sensation whenever I saw her. It was because Liu Mi's outward appearance, seemingly affectionate, was actually a facade concealing her true heart and her path of ruthlessness. Wang Lin stared intently in the direction Liu Mi had disappeared. His eyes gleamed with cold light. I can't see through Liu Mi's cultivation level. It's clearly more profound than mine. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to become a disciple of the Vermilion Bird. However, what is her purpose in approaching me? Wang Lin frowned, waving his right hand, stopping Xian and Liu Wei several dozen yards away. Wang Lin wasn't a kind person, but out of consideration for the expressions of these two women before and after their unconsciousness, he deduced Liu Mi's true nature and didn't drive them away. This Liu Mi didn't attack while my cultivation hadn't recovered, so her purpose is clearly not to kill me. But her seemingly affectionate yet heartless approach is very strange and not at all benevolent. Wang Lin's eyes darkened. After a moment, he waved his sleeve, turned around, and entered the cave, sitting down cross-legged. Cultivation is obviously no longer a concern. He only needed to wait for his primordial spirit to fully recover before he could restore his mid-stage transformation god realm. The most important thing right now was to restore his primordial spirit. To restore his primordial spirit, he needed to find a place with extremely strong spiritual pressure to forcibly restore it. Wang Lin pondered for a moment, his eyes flashed, and his body instantly disappeared from the spot. Deep within the spiritual vein beneath Soul Refining Peak, Wang Lin's figure reappeared. He was standing in the deepest part of the spiritual vein of Soul Refining Peak, and 300 feet to his left was the location of the Golden Soul Banner. At this distance, the main soul, shaped like a killing beast, inside the soul banner could not affect him. Sitting cross-legged, Wang Lin could feel the oppressive spiritual power from all directions slowly condensing and spreading. Wang Lin took a deep breath and slowly closed his eyes. At this moment, he wasn't absorbing spiritual power but was focusing on using this pressure to suppress his primordial spirit, causing it to retract more quickly. Time slowly passed. Suyan and Liu Wei had already woken up. Looking at their location, they realized they weren't outside the cave dwelling and immediately guessed what was happening. After discussing it, they created a small cave dwelling right where they had woken up and sat down to cultivate. One day, while Wang Lin was frantically using the immense pressure of the entire spiritual vein to suppress his primordial spirit, he suddenly opened his eyes wide, a spark of intelligence flashing in them. Although his primordial spirit hadn't fully recovered, it had progressed considerably compared to a few months ago. The scars on his face were now only 2. Wang Lin's eyes flashed, his divine consciousness stopping at the Golden Soul Banner more than 300 feet away. At this moment, a phantom figure suddenly appeared outside the Soul Banner. From within the black mist came a series of roars. Roar! Amidst the roars, the phantom figure immediately retreated, unable to solidify. Wang Lin's divine consciousness swept over it, and he instantly recognized the person. He was the old man on the rock in the main hall that day, the one who was only lacking the comprehension of the intent to achieve the God transformation stage, the great elder of the soul refining peak. Damn it, the power of this 10,000 soul banner is getting stronger and stronger. At my cultivation speed, I don't know when I'll be able to refine it, the old man said with a gloomy expression. The killing beast, seeing that the old man treated it the same way he treated Wang Lin, proactively attacked, its eyes revealing ferocity and a hint of mockery. Vile creature, the old man's eyes flashed with malice as he roared. The founding ancestor issued a decree that the soul banner, suppressed under the 3 peaks of the soul refining sect, is reserved for those with virtue. Sooner or later, you will belong to me, roar. Black gas spewed from the beast's nostrils, its contempt intensifying. HMPH, the old man patted his storage bag, and a pale yellow soul banner instantly appeared in his hand. He waved it, and an endless stream of souls appeared. Among these souls was a late-stage nascent soul main soul. Following the late-stage nascent soul main soul were 10 secondary souls at the mid-stage and early-stage nascent soul levels, and countless other souls. 10,000 souls devour. The old man shouted, pointing the soul banner in his hand forward. Immediately, all the souls from all directions, amidst ear-piercing screams, attacked the demonic beast. The beast's eyes widened, its body flashed, and it leapt into the midst of the souls like lightning, not bothering to dodge, but instead frantically devouring them with its huge mouth. The old man was clearly not unfamiliar with this demonic beast. His face showed no surprise, only a look of determination. He watched the souls being devoured by the beast, its body growing larger with each soul it swallowed. With his cultivation level, he was no match for this beast. Fortunately, he had practiced soul techniques for a long time and possessed the 10,000 souls banner, allowing him to barely put up a fight. After a moment, the old man's hands formed a series of hand seals, rapidly transforming. Immediately, a blood-red mass was pushed out from his hands. Gradually, his expression became serious. A fist-sized blood sphere appeared before him. "Blood sacrifice," the old man roared in a low voice. The moment he shouted, the blood sphere instantly exploded with a loud bang, transforming into countless red dots covering hundreds of meters. Immediately, the souls devoured by the beast, as if they had consumed a powerful tonic, frantically moved, trying to break free from the beast's body. The souls outside, under the guidance of the main soul, also relentlessly attacked. Even these nascent soul stage souls could unleash spells and perform internal and external attacks. The beast roared in anger, but its eyes still held the same mocking expression. Suddenly, the beast let out a fierce roar. Immediately, a stream of black energy rose from the golden soul banner. This black energy instantly transformed, unexpectedly forming another beast. Two beasts, identical in appearance. The old man's face turned grim. Every time he fought this beast, he was always defeated and forced to retreat when the second beast appeared. At this moment, upon seeing the second demonic beast appear, the old man's eyes immediately turned gloomy. He potted his storage bag, and a black light flashed in his hand, transforming into a large bell. The bell's handle was made of wood, with intricate natural wood grain patterns. "I borrow the precious treasure of the Lock God Peak, the Divine Bell One, to deal with your second demonic beast." 1. The specific name of the bell. The old man shouted loudly, the bell in his hand rang, and immediately a clanging sound emanated. As soon as the bell rang, it instantly transformed into a humanoid demonic beast, roaring and charging towards the Killen. Both Killens were trapped, roaring continuously. The old man's face showed joy, and he fully controlled the magic treasure in his hand. But at this moment, a stream of black energy emerged from the yellow soul banner. The third Killen's had appeared. The old man, unwilling to give up, roared in anger. This time, he had made the most progress, forcing out 3 demonic beasts. He felt utterly helpless. He hadn't known how many demonic beasts were inside the soul banner before. He had initially thought there was only one. Years ago, he had subdued one with the soul banner, but before a decisive victory could be reached, another appeared. The second time, he was defeated by that second beast. This was the third time, and he was determined to obtain this artifact, but he was dismayed to discover there was a third. Therefore, he couldn't help but wonder if there were a fourth, fifth, or sixth after the third. No wonder this soul banner has been here for so many years, yet no one has been able to obtain it. The old man sighed, about to give up. Suddenly, a massive wave of divine consciousness enveloped him from all sides. The old man's expression changed drastically. Under this divine consciousness, he was unexpectedly powerless to resist. This kind of feeling was something he had only experienced that year when facing a nascent soul stage ancestor. But compared to that feeling, it was several times stronger now. It must be a nascent soul stage ancestor emerging from seclusion. The old man's body trembled, and he immediately said, "Disciple Wu Dao greets the ancestor." As his divine consciousness swept over, the third demon beast immediately let out a tragic groan, its body enveloped by numerous black streams of energy, howling as it struggled to break free. Disciple Wu Dao Kai greets the ancestor as his divine consciousness swept out. The third demon beast immediately let out a tragic groan, its body enveloped by black streams of energy, howling and struggling to escape. HMPH. A cold snort came from the void, then a huge hand materialized, reaching towards the golden soul banner. At this moment, the golden soul banner trembled even without wind. Immediately, 3 killing demon beasts materialized from within the soul banner, howling and charging towards the hand. In the blink of an eye, the 3 killing beasts briefly displayed ferocity, yet deep within their eyes lay a hand of apprehension. The enormous hand clapped, and immediately one Killin let out a mournful groan, dissipating into countless fragments of soul that scattered in all directions. The other 2 Killins immediately charged forward, engaging in a standoff with the enormous hand. A cold snort echoed from within the divine consciousness, and countless streams of black energy surged from all directions. These black energies coalesced, forming a long spear that flashed with black lightning, striking the 2 Killins. With Wang Lin's previous cultivation level, he couldn't have dealt with this demonic beast. After all, his cultivation had only recovered to the mid-stage of the nascent soul realm at that time. But now, his cultivation had obviously broken through to the nascent soul realm. It could be said that at this moment, he was a nascent soul stage cultivator without any profound understanding, inferior to a true nascent soul stage cultivator. But he was more than capable of dealing with this demonic beast. From within the golden soul banner, a roar even more colossal than that of all the killing beasts erupted. Immediately, a powerful golden aura appeared. The moment this golden aura appeared, the killing demonic beast trembled, exploding with a bang, transforming into countless souls that merged towards the golden aura. As the killing demonic beasts vanished, Wu Daokai let out a miserable groan. His soul banner and his magical artifact were locked in a struggle with the killing beast, but now the opponent suddenly vanished. He was struck by a tremendous force, instantly inflicting serious injuries. Terrified, he tried to retreat. But at that moment, a phantom figure appeared before him, pointing at him. Wu Daokai's body immediately slumped to the ground, falling into unconsciousness. Wang Lin stood before Wu Daokai, his soul banner and purplewood banner spirit falling into Wang Lin's hands. Wang Lin's eyes flickered as he stared at the continuously condensing golden aura. So this is the true main soul of the soul banner. The previous beasts were merely secondary souls. After the golden aura absorbed all the existing souls, it roared, shaking the entire soul refining peak. In an instant, a massive killing beast, its entire body radiating golden light, appeared opposite Wang Lin, seemingly a real entity rather than a mere soul.